Anyway, never mind that. We're not talking about sports.
Sports ball? That's for the sports ball cast.
We have a sports ball cast?
No.
Okay. Have we expanded without my knowledge? JD just shows up on there. Oh yeah, by the way, I started like 15 new casts.
Don't put it past me.
I wouldn't.
Welcome to the weekly bowling cast, where I tell all the people about my bowling.
All the 2 people that are very interested in this.
Oh man.
All the 2 people that are also just happen to be on my bowling team.
So the agenda is posted in Discord.
I noticed. I noticed. Episode 39, Legend of Galactic Hero.
Any frogging? Any frogging to frogging?
I don't even know what that means.
Exactly what I was waiting for.
Any questions to ask?
No.
Why are we doing this?
It's a German joke because you can make it sound like it's the same thing.
Well, if you haven't noticed, I'm not German.
Me neither.
Ori, what? You?
I know. Ugh.
God, I still can't believe you used Notepad.
I like it.
Yeah.
And not everybody has words, so it just cuts out the middleman.
But everyone has Google.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't know that.
I mean, okay, the
Google's
Chinese
not going to go anywhere. Come on.
The Chinese don't really have Google yet, unless, of course, Google decides to go through with that.
But do you have anyone who's in China on your podcast?
Yes,
yeah,
me.
but it could happen.
Hold on, I'm just going to move to China real fast. And then try to convince them to let me podcast. Wow. That would be interesting. That would be a whole lot of propaganda.
Or are you here?
I'm podcasting from the middle of China, the greatest country in the world.
All hail the Kaiser.
Are you being threatened? No.
Oh, why would I say that? Kaiser rules.
No, I am not being threatened. No, don't get the gun away. I said no. I'm
Get that out of my face! I'm complying. Shut up.
Is everything okay? Yeah. Perfect.
Sure, of course.
Oh, okay. There's all the notifications I needed.
Oh, we're streaming. Hi, I'm not in trouble.
It's all the pre-show. Go on YouTube.
Everything is fine. I promise.
That's why you gotta keep your mouth shut.
I never keep my mouth shut. Do without
the government tried. It didn't succeed. Now I'm stuck in Ecuador embassy.
I've been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
If you start hearing gunshots, don't worry. I'm probably dead.
I just live in Brazil. It's normal.
I don't get robbed that often. I've only been robbed 3 times.
last week.
No.
That was 4 days I wasn't robbed. See? Positives.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything's up and running.
Fantastic. I'm grabbing my beer.
Okay. Sounds good. Clint.
Just let me know when to start recording.
Got it.
Hold on.
We have 7 people in the live chats. Hey.
Did you tweet something yet?
I did. Goes out automatic.
Oh, Damn,
when I
automatic.
start the streams. Use that hashtag Redleaf Retrocast. I'll see it.
Nope. Probably there. I just don't follow you on Twitter. No.
I don't follow that nonsense.
I'm not gonna lie, I have seen you tweet sometimes and I considered unfollowing just because it's just a bunch of wrestling shit and I'm not interested. I'm like, should I just mute him?
I tweet anime and gaming stuff too.
You do, but I don't see it. I just see your wrestling stuff.
Depends what time of the day it is. I was watching a wrestling pay-per-view that I wasn't able to watch last night that was on. I was watching it this morning.
Damn.
Oh, look at all those retweets. By Tori.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
Oh, ginger beer.
Got one more person in the chat.
Who's in there? Who's talking smack?
Talking smack. No, that's a different podcast.
I hate you so much.
Well, it's true. That is a different podcast.
Yeah, but like...
I've been on it.
Fucking... Like... No. Unacceptable.
No. New.
Nay. 9.
Yeah.
9.
Alright. Hickey, you ready? Well, that answers that question.
Yes.
I think he's ready.
No, maybe so.
Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. Could you repeat the question? You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. And you're not so big. Okay.
PewDiePie is about to pass all of YouTube gaming subs. Just by himself.
Well, do you know the story behind the burst in PewDiePie? So there's this Indian / group on YouTube called T-Series, exactly. That's been gaining a lot of traction because there's a lot of people in India and they provide Indian centric to that culture, from what I understand. So they've been getting a ton of subscribers from people in India. And people are like, oh no, we can't let corporate India, aka corporate period, wherever, take over PewDiePie, who's worked so hard to be whatever. This is an us versus it's real YouTubers versus corporate YouTube.
It really isn't, though. It's a fucking
the Late
meme.
Show, you have PewDiePie. All right.
It's a fucking meme at this point, though. Like, people are doing this. I think it's funny because people aren't even doing it anymore to make PewDiePie get subscribers. People are doing it to get subscribers for themselves. I think that's hilarious.
Well, of course, that's... so a lot of the big YouTubers are like, oh, subscribe to PewDiePie to keep him at the top. And I'm just like, I don't get it, guys. You're all fucking corporations at this point, so...
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's
not
his own
PewDiePie,
business
though.
now because of how much money he makes.
I mean,
PewDiePie's still a solo guy, but that is also because, no one's willing to work with him. Speaking of which, his last sponsored video was sponsored by a porn site. Hey, porn games. Anybody want to play some Flash porn? No? Oh, okay.
Apparently someone uploaded an episode of ours to Pornhub. I can't find it.
Fantastic. That's where it's
yeah.
But
Did
I
you
was
know that-
informed that it was there.
There's a lot of PS4 gameplays in Pornhub, and it's giving it a lot of traction. Dude.
I assume it's the hentai episode we recorded.
I hope so. No, but seriously, Pornhub is eventually gonna move on to uploading regular videos as well. So, and literally, Pornhub is fucking huge in the gaming market when it comes to gaming videos. Apparently, I learned.
Funny.
They have a bunch of esport teams.
I know.
It's like
the esports team. They have a bunch of real professional sports teams.
They were taken down off YouTube because they were uploading apparently the beginning of porn videos without the porn. So it was, like, you want this pizza, and then the video would be like, go to Pornhub if you want to see what happens next.
I love it. Like, I love it. You have all these sites that have tried to compete with YouTube, but now Pornhub is getting involved, and I hope Pornhub wins. Like, Pornhub, please take down YouTube.
Should we start uploading episodes to Pornhub?
We should.
That would be funny.
What porn decides is what's going to get popular in the future anyway, so.
Yeah. Blu-ray is out. Now it's all about green, what was it? Green disc or something.
Let's go, Pornhub.
It's all the porn without the porn. And it's environmentally friendly.
Fantastic. Well, just the way it should be. Environmentally friendly porn.
I might have to cut that audio out and make it a commercial for our cast.
You do that.
All right.
Environmental friendly
Hickey,
porn.
are you here yet?
Yes.
All right. So we're all ready to get started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was yes.
I shall count down from 3 then, and on go, hit record.
And I'm doing the intro then.
Yes, sir.
All right then.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yo, what's going on? My name's Tori, and you're listening to the Red Leaf Retrocast, your #1 destination for retro anime and owning liberals. I mean, your best location to learn, remember, and relive the past to the present, of course. That's what this podcast is all about. Yes, absolutely, anime.
Oh, God.
That's what we do.
I knew it was coming, and I
no.
still couldn't keep a straight face.
I don't know if I want to be here anymore.
For us that don't get it, it's because we were apparently recommended on our podcast, or also podcasts like the Ben Shapiro Show. So if you want to go own some liberals, you know.
Yeah, you know that section on iTunes where you click related? And apparently our podcast is related to Joe Rogan and a bunch of liberal podcasts for some reason. I don't know what our audience is listening to, but now we do know.
Uh-oh. Who dropped? Are we doing this again then? Oh, Hickey dropped, yeah.
He'll be back.
He'll be
back.
He'll be back?
Yes.
Alright then. So we just keep going then.
We'll just keep going. We're doing it live. All right. Yes, this is episode 39 of the Anime Cast from Red Leaf Retrocast. Fun episode. We're getting ever so closer to episode 50, which we have planned out till next year.
We sure have.
Great agenda. This is the Legend of the Galactic Heroes podcast, and we will also be doing a little comparison to the remake that happened in 2018, so very excited for that. And we have a special guest returning to the podcast, and his name is Andrew from the Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast. How you doing, Andrew?
Hello, I'm doing great on my little sleep that I have, but I'm doing great. I'll bring the energy.
You'll bring the energy? Well, speaking of energy, I have nice little hot tea with me with some brandy in it. I'm channeling my inner Yang Wenli.
Yes.
I had to. It seemed appropriate for this kind of day. Nice little Saturday afternoon we've started here. And if you're yeah. What, Corey? You got something to say? It's not nice?
No, I mean,
are you
it's
all
not.
Part of the liberal agenda, or are you with the Empire all of a sudden?
I am with the Empire all of a sudden because I'm with a not noon Empire.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it is the evening time over in the Norway.
It sure is.
All right. So, a little housekeeping here before we get going. We are over 100 episodes strong at this point. Very proud of that as we get ever so closer to our 2-year anniversary as a podcast whole. We have new logos and artwork for all the social medias and streaming sites from my man, Craig, from Mason Craig. And if you like his artwork and you see what you, if you want more done, then hit him up on Twitter, twitter.com/MasonCraig, MaceandCraig. Or if you just want to stream some games of his own, same name over on Twitch. And for those that are aware, through the entire month of November, we did have a podcast contest going on, and we had a lot more entries than anticipated. And as a podcast, we all decided that for the fans, since that's what we were doing, we picked a winner for each podcast. And I was able to tell like who fans are who. Not that hard, or who communicates. So the winner of the anime cast is Crash. So
Woo!
Yay! Clap, 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 clap.
Patch, patch, patch.
And so he'll be getting all the recognition in all the Anime January episodes, all 2 of them. And he gets to pick the next review of the cast, and I think it's okay to say that he picked Revolutionary Girl Utena. So our first episode into the new year of 2019 will be Utena. A lot of people are looking forward to that, I'm sure. It's a very revolutionary anime type deal. Haha.
Jokes.
Jokes.
I like a pun when it's good.
This was not it.
This was not that
I feel
moment.
like the joke really just spoke for itself at that point.
Yeah, I know. I'm on the lame side at times. I admit it. I'm not ashamed of it by any time. Yeah. Oh, Tori, now that one hurt. That jab hurt. Yeah, so thank you, Crash, for your entry, and all thank you to everyone who entered. It meant a lot, especially those who gave us iTunes and Stitcher reviews. Yes, those do mean a lot more, but I also appreciate the Podbean and YouTube new subscribers. It's good stuff. They've been joining me on some video games when I stream them, and other podcast episodes already. We have seen them. So great. We will worship the ground Crash walks on, because he's proven to be the lucky fan. And if you want to follow us, go hit us up on iTunes, Redleaf Retrocast. Same name over on YouTube. All the social medias, Redleaf Retrocast. Use the hashtag. You can communicate with us and anything that you want to see in the future. Let's move on. As we is Hickey back yet? Hickey, you back? Maybe? Yes? All right. Maybe not. Andrew,
no, maybe so?
Andrew, we want to know more about you. So as we go into that little segment, I'm going to play a nice little drop, and we can move on to the main part.
Are you here because you're following the will of others? Or are you here on your own will?
All right. So this is a bit of a callback, Andrew, to our very first episode. Yes.
Ooh.
And what we did was, as a little introduction to all of us, was we just kind of had our 3 favorite anime, and each host made fun of our choice for favorite anime. Always fun to do when you're an anime fan, because it's never right. You're always wrong.
Unless you're me.
Unless you're Tori, apparently.
Oh, Tori. Yeah, sure. You're never wrong.
Nope.
Question mark.
Never.
Never.
I've never been wrong before, and I never will be in the future.
I'm very confident of that. Might have to revisit this in the future. What if your new favorite 3 anime?
Oh, well, that won't be new. Don't worry about that.
Andrew, from Anime Junkie Podcast, Recovery of an Anime Junkie Podcast, what is your 3rd favorite anime?
Oh, so it actually has to be top 3 favorite?
I mean, it can be whatever you want, but yes, that is the idea.
Well, considering this list exists in its craziest state, I would say number 3, coming in at a hot number 3, we're gonna go with Genshiken.
All right, that should work now.
And Hickey's back, everyone.
He's back just in time. Hickey, have you seen Genshiken?
Yes, I have.
Well, make fun of it, because that's Andrew's 3rd favorite anime.
I like Genshiken.
No, you're not allowed to.
It's hard to do that with something like, well, I mean, Genshiken Kaido is horrible, and they fucked up Genshiken by making it, like, changing the time it was made. So the manga is from 1998, and the first season is from 2004, so they changed a little things, and it was a little bit weird. Yeah.
I mean, here's a good one. If you want tired stereotypes of anime fans from the early 2000s and the late 90s, this is the show for you. If you wanna live out your nerd fantasies, this show is for you. This show pretty much does. And if you like cute girls doing cute things and a ridiculous amount of stupid amounts of like challenges, then you watch Kujibiki Unbalanced, the anime within the anime, because that's a whole new level of silliness.
Oh god. You're not wrong, but here's why it's terrible. It is because, as you said, it's basically just making fun of nerds, and especially anime fans. That's not a good look for anime fans. That's a terrible look. And therefore, you're a terrible person for picking this and bringing this on to the light. Yeah, obviously.
It reinforces these stereotypes. We fought so much to the bottom.
Yes,
we are
so
not
far.
lolicons. We are not perfect. Well, I mean, most of our perfects, but regardless, what I was talking about, we're not lolicons. Yes, we're
That's
not
right.
lolicons. Half of the
listening,
cast of
FBI.
that show likes little girls, and they are not afraid of showing that from time to time.
Oh, God.
So, oh, it's probably, it's Yata from the Reanimator podcast. He's like, where's the face cam, Andrew?
I have one. They just didn't want me to use it.
Well, we
I'm
can't
too bishy for the camera.
That's true.
We can't just assume that a weeb wants this face seen to the wide world of the planet Earth.
The wide world of the 10 people listening.
7. All right. There's 7.
Okay. Sorry.
Tori,
Silly.
why is Andrew crazy for picking Genshiken?
Well, from what I've seen of Genshiken, which is nothing.
That's probably the right choice.
Great start.
Great start.
It's a show that I really, really want to watch. So therefore, that must mean that it is absolutely terrible and no one should watch it, because although my taste is perfect and I'm never wrong, if I want to watch something, it's usually bad. So there you go.
There you go. Simple enough.
All right.
There
Number
we go.
2. This one should be easier for you guys. The Melancholy of Suzumiya Haruhi.
Oh no.
Okay,
What the,
you know what?
What the fuck they did in 2006? What the fuck was that?
I'm going out on a limb and I'm giving it a pass on this one. So
2006 is bad. They fucked up real bad in 2006. So they decided to do that again in 2009. And what they did, they fucked up again with the Endless 8. Awesome. Great.
So Hickey, are you telling me that you don't love the same episode 8 times over and over and over?
You see, the Haruhi Suzumiya
Of
anime
course
is great.
I like.
It's great.
I don't
for
like
people...
the Kyonka Dewa 8 times in a fucking row.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean, it kind of speaks for itself when we already have one significant part to hit on. But here we go. Haruhi Suzumiya is a show with one good character, and everyone else might as well just not even be in the anime. She could be talking to actual cardboard, and it would be as entertaining. Along with, the anime is perfect for those with Alzheimer's. Because of the Endless 8, it's the only way someone with such an affliction would be able to watch the anime and go, wow, I love that episode, right after I had just seen the previous episode. That's a Lewis Black joke. That's a callback right there.
I do not condone JD's joke.
No?
Wow, that's actually the first time that happened. Oh, shit.
No, that's a Lewis Black joke. He when there's in Houston in the early 2000s, he told a joke where people that, because there was a Starbucks across from a Starbucks in Houston, and the only time that would make sense is if their prime audience was people with Alzheimer's disease. No, just pure silence on that.
Tell a good joke.
Oh, I cracked
Don't
up when I
steal
heard
other
that joke.
people's joke.
Exactly.
I didn't claim it as my own. I referenced
No, you
it
didn't.
just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
All right. What's number 1? We'll move on.
All right. Well, if this was my real number 1,
Whoa.
it would be impossible for you guys to make fun of it.
Oh, that right.
But
I don't believe you.
But for this cast, my number 1 is Whistle. Tori, let your bad opinions fly.
Wait, what?
Oh my god. Okay.
I wasn't expecting Whistle. What?
Me neither. That's I'm honestly I'm lost for words.
Yeah,
Because
I
that's not even good.
It's not even the best football anime.
It's not, but like I don't know what to say about that. That hasn't already been said. Watch Whistle if you don't like good anime, I guess. And
Oh God.
Oh, then it might be right up your alley.
no, it is not. And I love shitty anime. That's
Shitty anime.
yeah, man. I really enjoyed Killing Bites. That show's bad, but it's entertaining as hell.
I cannot condone that. That show was fun as fuck.
You also enjoyed Darling in the Franxx, so
I
you're
sure
right.
did.
Ooh.
Up until the final episodes, but we don't they didn't
Episodes,
happen.
as in 13 of them?
No,
Oh,
after the
no,
final
JD.
two.
I think you meant as in 26 of them.
Oh, okay. I would give it
As in
25,
two of
maybe.
them.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Andrew's first appearance on this cast was reviewing the anime Whistle. So definitely recommend going back and listening to that one. I think that's
And I don't know
awesome.
how you got me to come back. I honestly don't after that review.
After that review.
It's charm. JD's charm.
It's
You know.
yeah. Yeah, when I tell a joke from 2001 and I get crickets in response, yeah, my charm is off the charts.
What do you expect? The joke's been dead for fucking over a decade.
I guess so. Lesson learned there.
What's your number 1? You know, just out of curiosity.
The real one.
The real one?
Number 1. Yeah.
Oh. Hold on. Let me actually just look at my fake list I made up.
Wow!
Well,
You
you
need
do-
to look
while you do
up
that,
your
Nolan
favorite
Richard-
anime. Damn.
Let's see. We got some responses from the chat here. As you look up that, we got Yata saying the disappearance is legit amazing.
It sure is. One of the best anime movies.
Like I said, depend on the year. If it is 2006, no, 2009 is better. But and the movie, The Disappearance of Suzumiya Haruhi is the best one.
I haven't
And
seen
it's
that yet.
3 hours and a
Trying to get me to
half.
watch it.
So like, it's a lot of investment.
And then Nolan
It is, but it's
Richardson.
amazing.
Nolan Richardson's really going through the trigger here. I just got so triggered because at the top of Twitch it says add filter, but I glanced and thought it said Adolf Hitler. So Nazi jokes seem to always make it on the cast.
God damn.
It's not our fault, you know.
I
The
blame
problem
you and
is-
all your German.
Yeah,
All right.
There'll be plenty more
cannot be
German references
Nazi.
later.
Anyway, it's not our fault that a lot of Japanese directors like Nazi stuff, alright?
Well,
And
I mean, allies during the
Talk
war.
about them, so like sometimes a Nazi joke slips in, and everyone laughs. And
So,
it happens.
if you actually want my top 3, it's Genshiken, Gundam X, and what was it? Kids on the Slope. So
Gundam
oh,
X.
those don't sound as
Interesting.
funny.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I would have a few things to say about Gundam X, but that's something I would definitely we're gonna have to talk in post. For sure.
Too hot for live. Too hot for
Oh,
podcast.
clearly. That's the line. Gundam X. No, the Gundam fans, we cannot anger them.
You
And the
should-
Gundam Cast is our most popular one, and we
It is
only
the most
talk about
downloaded one, for sure.
fucking the recaps.
Yeah, we did the 3 movies instead of the show.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Ideal.
Yeah, well, it's easier to watch than 50
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah, but it wasn't
49.
good.
43.
Is it 43?
It was canceled.
So. Sure
Of course
was.
it was. It's Gundam.
Actually, only
The
2
80s.
series in the almost 40-year history have been canceled. Gundam X and the original Gundam. And it's funny, even though the original Gundam got canceled, the director Yoshiyuki Tomino is a crazy genius of marketing, it seems, and managed to get 3 movies made because toy sales were great. Just not sales for stuff like washing machines for the parents.
Well, thank you, Hulkboy223, new follower for the cast. Thank you so much.
And then Gundam X got screwed over by Ava because...
Oh, no.
Ava.
Because Ava.
That also got canceled.
Alrighty. Well, as we move on, Tori, you have a quest update.
I do.
Quest update.
Of course I do. Yeah. So once again, I've watched another 6 movies before coming on the cast because...
Man, you're rolling through them.
I sure am. I'm almost done with all the movies I have for the now. And just to quickly roll through the movies I saw Wicked City, Wings of Hon Mais, or Haonea Mais, or however you're supposed to pronounce that. Lupin the Third, Fumai Chisoku no Inbo, Grave of the Fireflies, My Neighbor Totoro, and Hiki's Delivery Service. So, a lot of...
You're doing Ghibli stuff.
A lot of Ghibli, yes.
And you're you're on record saying that you're not a Ghibli guy, especially a Miyazaki.
Yes, and I'm not a Ghibli guy. But at the same time, I'd also only really seen 1 Ghibli movie before. Well, 2. So I decided, since I'm already going through the years of watching movies anyways, might as well pick up the Ghibli movies while I'm there and watch them. And it's not, when I say I'm not a Ghibli guy, I don't mean that I hate the movies. I don't hate, the first one I watched was Princess Mononoke. I didn't dislike the movie. I actually think it's good. The problem is just when you go into Ghibli, you hear the same thing every time. Oh, it's a 10 out of 10. It's amazing. It's perfect. And then you go in and it's like, yeah, it was good, I guess. That's my problem. So, yeah, I watched Grave of the Fireflies, which was not Miyazaki. Interesting movie.
Takahata.
Takahata. Now, I can definitely say for certain that I actually prefer Barefoot Gen. But it's a good movie. I just wish that beginning wouldn't have been so... I just like the fact that, they're getting bombed, and then it's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm burying food in the backyard. Okay? Gotta bury that food before the bombs drop. After that, well, I gotta pick up my shoes, I gotta pick up which jacket to wear. It's like, you're getting bombed, man. Like, what part of... Yeah, sure, it's fire bombs, but like... fucking get out of there. And the mother is just like, here, you take care of my daughter, your fucking 3-year-old sister, or however old she is. I'm just gonna peace now. Bye. So the opening was a bit weird to me, and it got better after a while. But it was like I finished it, and it was a good movie, but it wasn't amazing.
It's a direct reference to his own personal experience, right?
Well, no. Partly. It's Takahata's experience with getting bombed, but it's based on an interview by another survivor of the.
I thought I read somewhere that it was directly referencing his own experience when that happened.
He put in some of his own references when fleshing it out, but ultimately it's based on somebody else's words. So apparently this guy was left by his mother.
Interesting. Then he made an interesting choice in how he ends that movie or begins it.
Yeah.
Nothing says this movie's gonna bring you pure happiness and joy by seeing a kid starve to death and people just walk by and go, what a shame.
I mean, yeah, but like, sadly, that's just kind of what happens.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's not even really all that different now. Think about the times you walk by somebody homeless and you look at them and go, ew.
Except for half the time, you don't know if they're actually homeless or just faking it.
Well,
that is also true.
That's the other thing, steeped in culture. Like, I know growing up in Houston, there was like a poll that 7 out of 10 of them weren't actually homeless.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And then
now, we have that problem too.
And then in Europe, especially my time in Germany and even London, the Roman gypsies and people from Bosnia, they're not homeless either. Their job is to pretend and steal from you.
Yeah, we have another problem, which is not like there are people that they're actually homeless, but like you shouldn't give them money still because they're not the ones getting the money. You have like foreign mafia dudes and whatnot that are extorting these people, so they go to collect the money and then they give it to them.
Is that let's see, in Oslo, is it the Algerians?
Something like that.
That I'm trying to remember. But yeah, there's a big foreign like mob thing in Oslo that's a big issue.
Yep. There's many mob problems in Oslo if you want to be technical about it, but yes.
Is it also I think it's also the people from not Afghanistan, Pakistan?
Probably.
One of the two.
Like I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that that's like one of the things that you learn very quickly is just don't give money to homeless people because even though they might be homeless and they might be poor, they're nine times out of 10, maybe even close to 10 times out of 10, they're not the ones who end up with that money. Yeah. They have their families are being extorted, so they have to give them to other people.
Well, back to Grave of the Fireflies. Back on a more happy note.
Wow.
It's interesting just from like what you associate Japan with today from a cultural perspective and how everything's like by the community, and then when you watch how they treat other people within that movie, it's almost opposite of what you would expect, at least from a cultural perspective.
Kinda, but I don't know. Like I understand it because, like, you know, it is that problem of always whenever you're a part of the community. If you fall outside of it, you're useless, and you see that a lot as well in the movie, right? When he's forced to start stealing and whatnot, and because he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to swallow his pride and go back to that bitch who kicked him out.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So right, so since he doesn't want to do that, he ends up falling outside, and then. What happens? Well, you see kids come over and they find their hideout and they're like, "Ew, disgusting, ghosts, corpses, ew." Right? Like it's kind of to be expected, right? Because you're not really a person anymore. You're not seen as a person. You're trying to survive on your own. That's like horrible, man. You can't do that. So yeah, but still, for me, I prefer Gen over Grave of the Fireflies.
That's interesting.
Simply because
I think it's the first person I've talked to that prefers that movie over Grave of the Fireflies, just because I think of how well regarded Grave of the Fireflies is, and I believe probably more people have seen that one as opposed to Barefoot Gen.
That one is definitely true, yes. But what I appreciate about Barefoot Gen is that Barefoot Gen is way more raw, and obviously it deals with not the firebombings, but with the nuke. Mm-hmm. So it's more of to me, it's more of an interesting, like, A-bomb literature is more interesting to me in general. Because just the direct devastation is way more intense. There are similarities, and technically you can also say that the end result of the firebombings were worse than the atom bombs, but just the immediate results and the horrors, and just I think that's one of the things that they portrayed better in Barefoot Gen was the horrors. Ultimately, it becomes about survival, and that's the same thing. Barefoot Gen does the same in the second movie. Sure. And when we're doing, if I were to compare the second movie to Barefoot Gen, to Grave of the Fireflies, I'd say those are more along the same lines because they follow a lot of the same things. You have to survive on your own. They go to steal, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They have more direct parallels. So I were to put Grave of the Fireflies right around same level for me, like as I would Barefoot Gen 2, but to me, Barefoot Gen 1 just kind of it's a whole different experience, and way more raw.
So anyone in the chat that's seen that, feel free to chime in. Now would be the time. And while we're waiting on that, just in case, I just got a couple shout outs here. Yata, new subscriber on Twitch, so thank you so much. And Andrew, I'm curious. I assume you've seen Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, you have to, kinda
have to, yeah. And have you seen Barefoot Gen?
No, I think I tried starting it, and I'm just like, oh, this doesn't seem like a fun movie, so I'm just not in the mood.
It is not a fun movie, no.
Yata says Fireflies is the most overrated Ghibli movie. Wow.
See, I've seen people say that. I've seen people say that. We have one in our Discord as well who thinks that Gravity of the Fireflies is just downright boring and uninteresting. And
I kind of see that, yeah.
I understand where he's coming from. Although, obviously, I don't think it's not trying to be entertaining or fun.
Sure.
Right, so it's one of those things like, I understand the criticism. I don't necessarily think it's a valid criticism, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something fun to watch, you're not watching Gravity of the Fireflies, but by that same token, if you're looking for something fun to watch, you're not watching Barefoot Gen. Unless, of course, you have a... I'm not even going to go there. But, you know what? Like, I'm just going to stop myself because I know somebody's going to get mad for that.
Yeah, but before you keep going, Tori, I want to hear Andrew and Hickey's thoughts on the matter. Yeah. So, Andrew, why don't you go first?
Oh, man. Unpopular opinion. I haven't seen a lot of Ghibli movies, mostly because I think... mostly because a lot of people hype them up so much. I've seen Princess Mononoke, and I freaking love it. But also something I've noticed, like, if you really strip back the really awesome visuals, so half of the time the stories are very hit or miss with people.
I have noticed that, sure. Yeah.
So I can see why people would say Fireflies is overrated, but then at the same time, it was a movie designed to be whatchamacallit. It wasn't designed to be hyper visual or allegorical or whatnot. It's just supposed to be a straight up animated history piece. And I think it works as that. It's my go-to movie when I describe movies that you know, it's like Schindler's List. You know, you should see it once just because it is what it is and what it's the subject matter, but I never feel the need to revisit it. You're right, like I would never sit down and be like, I kind of want to watch Grave of the Fireflies again.
Yeah, you know what? I second that actually, because I physically own quite a bit of anime on Blu-ray and DVD, and yet I don't own Grave of the Fireflies simply because probably I don't have any interest in watching it again. I still think it's a 10 out of 10 personally, but like I could go the rest of my life and just say, yeah, I don't want to be that depressed ever again watching something. Hickey, what's your thoughts on the matter?
Well, I guess I agree with her. It's better to watch Grave of the Fireflies from a historical point of view than a Ghibli per se point of view, because Ghibli movies are full of fantasy and mysticality behind it. But Grave of the Fireflies, it's more accurate, it's more real, and also you don't have a lot of, you know, documents and things like that about the Japanese side of World War II or the Americans' attacks, aside the nukes. So it's important to see it and understand what happened in that era to the survivors of those attacks. I would say it's not overrated, because, you know, since people always think it's overrated, I believe it actually gives it the opposite effect.
Okay.
Maybe when you compare it to other Ghibli movies, it actually makes the other movies seem more overrated than Grave of the Fireflies. But, you know, it's watch once, understand what's going on. Yeah, it is sad. It happens. It actually happened. And it's something we cannot change, but we can learn from. Done. Let's watch some Princess Mononoke or Totoro.
Well, that was why. I mean, it's interesting you say watch something else right after or what have you. It was a double feature with My Neighbor Totoro, which Yata in the chat says Totoro was the superior movie in that double feature release. That's a masterpiece.
I've disagreed with him on that point in the past, and he is aware of it.
So there you go. So Grave of the Fireflies is too clumsy with its emotional narrative, and since he brings up Totoro, Corey, you also watched that movie, correct?
I sure did, and I'm glad you decided to go back on that segue because that you. So yeah, I did watch Totoro, and I would actually agree. I didn't know it was a double feature, but I really enjoyed Totoro, surprisingly enough. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, was because, like I said, I'm not huge on Ghibli stuff, and
right,
children's movies are not my thing. But Totoro was a movie that it made me smile, it made me happy, it made me laugh at quite a lot of the stuff, and it was just an entertaining movie. Like, I'm not going to pretend like it's super deep, although if you've ever watched the movie, you'll probably have heard of all the fan theories behind it, which are
Totoro's
an
actually
interesting
a monster who steals children away from their family.
Well, yeah, he's the god of death, and the idea is that the kids are already dead.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Oh, my machine, they do. I understand. I understand the idea because there's a lot of parallels. Because the setting, apparently, two sisters were killed. 2 young sisters were killed there. They were killed in the month of May. Mm-hmm. One of the characters is named the Japanese word for May. You have that final saying when the mother and father are talking together at the hospital, and they don't see their kids, but they're probably waiting for. I think I could see, but again, I think it's too. I kind of agree with Gabriel on this one. I think it's too. It's trying to place meaning where there really isn't one.
Overanalyzing.
Yeah. It's like, because I see the signs, or I say the signs. I see the correlation, but when you take the entire movie into consideration, we're talking about a couple of instances where there's a similarity.
Okay.
So it's like, I feel like that's kind of you're choosing a couple things to look at and then ignoring the rest of the movie. And then you have some weaker stuff like, oh, but at the end card, they don't have shadows. Well, yes, it's the end card. Right? It's like,
it might actually be, for an extent, because it can be a false flag. It can be a writer false flag, where the writer just put those things in so it can generate a discussion. And, a less long discussion. So it might actually be, it's not
possible, but I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's not what is really happening in the movie. But it can be a false flag planted by the writer, so it can generate a discussion about even what actually happened with the murder of the 2 girls. You don't know. It's a false flag.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, it's like, what do they want to get out of that? Is there some correlation with the shoe that they found in the swamp and that didn't belong to anyone? Is that like the idea that maybe the sisters were killed and dumped in the swamp? I don't understand. Yeah. Like, I don't get it.
Andrew, what's your take?
I just think this is a Miyazaki film. I think he was just paying homage to the area and some of the history of it, as well as adding his own fantastical element. And I think people do love overanalyzing for these fan theories. I mean, just look at YouTube. There's 100 million videos on fan theories on just any movie or TV show.
Oh, absolutely.
Just not to mention all the conspiracy theories. So, I mean, look, it's a story about 2 girls and learning to, I guess, grow up. That's what Yada told me once.
Learning to grow up. They are growing up.
And their mother is sick. And I don't think... oops, sorry about that. My bad. I think there's some emotional resonance lost by the ending that they decide to go with. So, but then again, it being a double feature with Grave of the Fireflies, I can see why they also went with that route. So, it's okay. I was particularly bored by the movie, so I found it visually appealing. I found it visually interesting, which is what you get a lot out of a Miyazaki. Even if you don't like his stories, they look really good. And I think it was okay. I just didn't understand the reverence for My Neighbor Totoro, unfortunately. So I just maybe didn't get it, but I thought it was a good looking movie, and yeah,
Sure it was.
I know for
Totoro's
one
such a
thing.
lovely monster.
I know for one thing that when eventually I have a child of my own, My Neighbor Totoro is definitely going to be one of those childhood films I'm going to push on them, along with Land Before Time.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I can totally see kids really enjoying that, because like I said, it's not a particularly deep movie. It's not a movie you're supposed to get anything in particular out of, right? Like you can say, the best thing I can get out of that movie looking at it is like, Totoro, he kind of, what did they liken him to? They liken him to like a troll in a fairy tale. So again, you could talk about kids and active imagination and whatnot and dreams and just that. But like that's the extent of it, right? So at the end of the day, it's just kind of a fun movie, and despite looking like a monster, Totoro is quite the charming. It's a charming thing.
I love him in his umbrella in respect to his own size. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I love that giant fucking smile of his as well. Like,
yeah, we both did it at the same time. Alrighty, is that it for your movie quest?
Well, the last one was Kiki's Delivery Service, which
okay.
Now
I love more. Actually,
I know a lot of people who absolutely adore it, but as is the case very often with Miyazaki and his movies, I was kind of bored.
Aw, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it didn't do much for me.
Bummer.
So, like, I get it. Moving out of your own, the Pokemon journey. Going out, moving away from your family, starting a life on your own, kind of just growing up, becoming more independent. Like, I get it, but I don't know.
Everyone should take note and do that.
Yeah, everyone should. But I don't know. I don't particularly like Kiki. I've said this before. I really don't like characters like her that are just like, when she meets Wally. That's not his name, but when she meets him for the first time, it's just like, he's like, hey, and she's just like, I'm mad at you. I'm like, okay, girls. I don't like boys. I believe you. So yeah, Kiki kind of, she didn't annoy me. She didn't go to get on my nerves. She wasn't that bad, but it's like, I'm sitting there, it's like, yeah, she's alright, I guess. A bit annoying at first. And she gets better. And she loses her magical power because I guess that needed to happen. And then she gets it back. And then the blimp accident, which was funny to me. Which probably, again, says more about me than anything else. But, hey.
Yeah, I'm usually not into movies that kind of just have sweet moments all the time, but there's something about Kiki's Delivery Service that just kind of gives you the fuzzy feels, and the story being told just kind of makes you feel nice. I quite liked it.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I've seen so many of the things that they do in that, like, before. When I say before, I mean in other things. But, like, it's, the kind of the same thing. It was like, the grandma who baked the pie for her granddaughter. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. And then, of course, you meet the granddaughter. I hate this. Why would she do this? In fact, first of all, why are you complaining to the person who's delivering it to you? I don't understand why. I don't understand the point of this. They have nothing to do with this. And ultimately, it's like, you should feel sad. And I'm like, I don't really feel sad. Like, yeah, her granddaughter's an asshole.
Jesus.
What do you want from me?
Well, alrighty.
So yeah, that was it. Again, I've got to ignore the other ones. On Mice was fine.
Okay.
Wicked City was entertaining. Shitwatch entertaining. Lupin the Third is more Lupin the Third. You've heard me talk about that a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, especially on this cast, we talk a lot of Lupin, almost to a fault at times.
Yeah, I have a lot of Lupin on my movie quest as well, but for the most part, I'm just going to mention seeing it. Like,
I'm looking forward to you getting to a particular 90s Lupin movie. It's one of my favorites. But anyways, Hickey, why don't you take us into our two news pieces that we want to talk about today?
Well, sure. JD separated those two. I kind of warned him about them. The first one is that Netflix announced they will make a Ghost in the Shell adaptation called Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I am.
He is mad because of Saint Seiya.
I am mad because of Sensei. Yes, I'm also mad because of the Witcher series and a lot of things Netflix does. But as long as they leave the Japanese doing the Japanese stuff and they don't put their hands in anything, they should be fine. If they start trying to mess around, putting politics and stuff like that in the middle, no.
I mean,
no.
Here's a good thing though. Before this one comes out, we will get Ultraman by the same studio that's making the Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045. So depending on how that goes, that will give us a pretty good. I think that will give us a good indication of it'll be.
But the Ultraman series will be a CGI series, right?
And so will the Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045. It's being produced by a full CG studio.
No, I thought it was going to be 2D, but that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. I'm just really upset about Sensei.
Why? It looks like it's the classic Saint Seiya. Just CG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I hope you're ready for that third version or fourth or fifth version. I don't know how many versions there are on that song. Pegasus.
Well, here in Brazil, there are 3 versions. The first one, they didn't use the original one. They actually make an original music, and it's very 80s.
Okay.
Then you have the actual one, and then you have a famous band that did the same thing for the redub in the 2000s. So that's going to be the 4th time? Yeah.
Oh, JD, when they released Saint Seiya over here in North America, they used, I forget what 80s band, and they're like, and I ran so far away. Yeah, that was the opening to Saint Seiya. It was hilariously bad.
Oh, wow. They're trying to pull a JoJo before JoJo.
Basically.
Yeah. Andrew, you were kind enough to have me on as a guest on your latest podcast episode, Recovery of the Anime Junkie. And we also spoke about the Standalone Complex Netflix series. And not to spoil what you and I discussed on your cast, how about the Cliff Notes version?
I don't even remember what we said. All I said is, I'm excited-ish, because, I mean, as long as they do standalone episodes, I'm not always big on those complex episodes. Like, I think that's what I said.
So you're not always big on the cerebral kind of out-of-body existentialism that they get into a lot of the times?
I'm not a fan of the drawn-out version of that. Okay. I'm very much more a fan of the condensed one-episode side stories that they tell that sometimes connect back, but are just usually just a story within the world that deals with some deep psychological, philosophical discussion on consciousness in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those were always better. I know I remember the second Standalone Complex season. You know, with the individual 11, there's a particular 2 to 3 episode span where Kusanagi's in essentially the Matrix, and she's on a round table, and they just go on and on and on about, you know, would you put your brain in a robot body? Is that actually part of your individuality? And they just go on and on. Yeah. Hopefully they don't do that, because there was a key phrase where I think it was the director said they want to dive deeper into that, and that gets me a little bit worried. But luckily by Netflix, at least it'll have English dubs and dubs in many other languages, so you won't have to read all of that exposition.
You can listen to the Japanese one. God damn it, JD.
Yeah, actually, Ghost in the Shell, at least the first 2, at least the Standalone Complex series, has some pretty good English voice acting in it.
Yeah.
I will actually agree with that, and I hate it.
You're weird.
I hate agreeing that dubs are good. Dubs are bad, okay? Everyone knows it.
Okay there, buddy.
All right.
Okay there.
Hickey, what is our second piece of news?
Well, the second piece of news is that JJ's favorite mangaka is planning a new manga series. It's a new series from Rumiko Takahashi.
Yay.
Oh, what's she ever done?
Well, JD, please tell me your favorite works from Rumiko.
I have yet to watch or read a series from her that... no, I take that back. I did not like the anime adaptation of Mermaid something. It was so bad I don't even remember.
I think it's just called Mermaid Saga.
Mermaid Saga. Okay, that was the second half I didn't... Yeah, I didn't like the anime adaptation of it. I sought out a bit of the manga online just because I was curious, and it just didn't work in the anime form, much in the same realm of, or at least how it was adapted. Just like Blade of the Immortal, that anime just didn't work, even though it did follow the manga pretty well. But I really like Urusei Yatsura from the early 80s. I actually prefer it over Ranma 1/2, even though I kind of grew up with that series a bit. And then Inuyasha is just... I mean, went way deep into those shows on Andrew's cast recently, actually, so I won't go into it deep there. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, definitely go seek out that episode from Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast for sure. And then Rine was the most recent adaptation, and it didn't gain a whole lot of steam. It was almost too episodic to a fault. It was almost like she was channeling her greatest hits of all of her jokes and characters in that show. So my hope with this new Rumiko manga series is she gets more creative in this rendition. Make a new series, you know, pull a new Inuyasha or Ranma series, not what we got out of Rine.
Do you think she's gonna reinvent herself and, you know, get up to date with the trending that is going on with manga and anime, or just make the same thing?
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. I hope she does reinvent herself a little bit, just like what she did with Inuyasha. I mean, it wasn't the blatant comedy series that we'd seen from her in the past. It was something new, and it took off just like that. So if she does something new like that again in this day and age, it could be just as successful. And she does have the creative mind to do something like that. I have confidence.
She's also 61, and I don't even know why she's still making manga. I feel like she's made enough money that she doesn't need to keep making manga. I guess she's an artist and having fun doing it, but at the same time, I don't know if she wants to reinvent herself at this point.
Well, I
the
think
guy from Hunter x Hunter is also rich as fuck. He doesn't need to make manga. He should stop and finish fucking Hunter x Hunter. But
he clearly doesn't want to make manga. You can see that all over.
Oh, please. He's just faking it at this point.
No, exactly. He doesn't want to make manga.
Guys, I made one chapter of 2 pages using a number 2 pencil. So, you know, here, have it. Oh, I'm going on hiatus again. My back hurts. Like, please, just finish this. My problem is, like, having the manga and seeing the same effect we're seeing with Karakuri Circus, where people say it's outdated, but they cannot explain why it's outdated. Maybe people like basically got sick of that thing, or her in general. That happened with Clump. And everyone in Clump is very old as well. So, like, this is my fear: is happening something like happened to Clump.
Oh yeah. Cardcaptor Sakura, the remake, it had a lot of steam when it was coming out, and then it just faded away, like it never came out. I don't hear anyone talking about it. I don't read anything from sites writing about the show anymore or its success. I'm gonna have to look into that for the next cast. That would be an interesting topic.
Like, if you want a Cliff's Notes version of that, quick, and you should also discuss Clap, because Clap is just awesome.
Yes.
It made me question so many things about my sexuality when I was a kid.
Yeah, but with Jovic and Kobato, like, oh, wait a second, there's something wrong here. So, that shouldn't be happening. What? I love a computer? What?
I think the problem with Cardcaptor is that it was just very much Cardcaptor, but with updated graphics, and people may not have been like super into that. And so it just kind of, people were just like, especially the people who would review things are like, well, it's basically Cardcaptors. Like if it was made in the 90s, but it was made today. And then I think people just like, I don't know what more I can say about it. And I think that's why it's not really trending. Well, even though the show ended like a season or two ago.
Yeah. Well, even so, I mean, the series was very popular when it came out, and I don't know, the things they updated in the show just didn't seem to translate, I guess, or it was kind of a half effort.
Even in Japan, you don't see a lot of merchandise. I remember before the show coming out, there was a Sakura figure that came out, and it was beautiful and very expensive.
Yeah.
The mid show and forward, you didn't see anything about merchandise, and you didn't see Blu-rays being announced everywhere. So like, it's a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because there's so many lollies now that there's too many to choose from.
Yeah, that is true.
There we go. Alrighty. Well,
like, why fight over the middle school girl when we can have 900-year-old lollies?
Not wrong.
Anyway,
you're not
segue.
Wrong. Segue. Not really, but kinda. Yeah. I think the brandy's kicking in for me personally. Oh, delicious. Well, speaking of that, I think that's a good segue into getting into our review, because it's Legend of the Galactic Heroes time, and I think we have a lot to say on it.
Do we, though?
Gotta drop to play.
Now, it's time we start dealing with the business at hand.
Okay, so before we get into our review over Legend of Galactic Heroes, I have a review to read from iTunes. It is from Wilfred NJPW US. Covers everything, great chat on wrestling, and really comprehensive. Great job, 5 stars. Simple and sweet. Well, thank you, Wilfred. You're a nice guy for doing that for us. We're all happy, and he was clearly referencing the wrestling podcast, and you can also find that at Red Leaf Retrocast over on iTunes, Stitcher, Smart Radio, Spotify, and all your favorite outlets. And hit us up on Twitter at BowlingJD. You can hit all of our Twitters up in the description of every single episode, and if you want to see raw live streams, go hit us up on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, and Periscope, all of the same name. And that will bring us into our review. So, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episodes 1 through 26 is all we're covering, aka Season 1 of the show. It was an OVA that started in 1988. In total, it spans 110 episodes. And yes, I did say OVA, so think about that. OVAs would come out in individual packets, 1 to 2 to 3 episodes at a time, whatever would fit on the VHS tape. And it took a long time, I think a decade, for the entire show to come out. So
almost.
Yeah.
It started in 88 and was finished in 97.
Yeah.
And this is just the main series. There's a whole bunch of like movies and other OVAs and
movies,
stuff
sequels.
like that came out, that sequels, prequels, because when the series starts, they already literally in episode 1 they're referencing stuff that's already happened, and they made that later, so you can technically also go back and watch it in chronological order for where it all starts to where it ends.
Yeah, I mean, the war is going on for like 150 years already, so a lot of things happened.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Made by Studio Artland, the same studio that went debunked recently, that made Macross in the Mushishi series, and Magic Bus, who made Cobra the Animation, which you can find that show over on High Dive, as well as Legend of Galactic Heroes. And the movies, as I found out this morning, are scheduled for release on High Dive pretty recently as well. I think in the next day or two. So pretty cool there. Director is Nobuo Ishiguro, director of Yamato, another show we've covered on the cast in the past, so that's pretty cool. And before I begin with the summary, we got Yata in the chat saying, what are my thoughts on Becky Lynch? That will be saved for the wrestling podcast. And if you want to know further thoughts, we went into a lot of detail on Becky Lynch in the most recent wrestling episode that came out last week. So there's that. Back to the summary of Legend of Galactic Heroes. We will be concentrating on that for the chat, so please keep that and keep it anime related. The war between the
monarchical.
Thank you, Hickey.
Why would it be? That's the awful word.
That is an awful word. Galactic Empire and the Democratic Free Planets Alliance has raged ceaselessly across the galaxy for over a century, with the fleets of both powers having fought countless battles. Currently, the conflict revolves around the strategic Iserlohn Corridor, which is like a midpoint Death Star, which we'll get to later. One of only 2 passages of space through which the 2 forces can access each other. Here, the Empire has built the nigh impregnable Iserlohn Fortress, whose deadly weaponry has thwarted repeated efforts by the Alliance to capture her. Phazon, a neutral mercantile state, controls the other corridor. The long war has resulted in an indecisive stalemate, but there are 2 men from the 2 worlds who will change everything. Yang Wenli, a gifted strategist from the Alliance, who wants nothing more than to retire and be a historian, and Reinhard von Lohengram, a man from the Empire whose ambition knows no bounds. Their love, struggles, triumphs, and failures play across an interstellar stage of intrigue, war, and death. Quite a mouthful for a summary, but I think it does a pretty good job to get you an idea of like who the 2 main character focus are. There's the Empire, the Alliance, 2 major factions going against each other in a space war, essentially. So, before I ask you guys what are your thoughts over the series as a whole, I do want to say, first off, before each episode starts, there's a title in German that comes across the screen, but it's more like this Dutch-German hybrid that says Heldensagen von Kosmosinsel. So it's not technically German, but can be broken down to something like Hero Tales from the Planetary Cosmos, is how I personally would translate it. It literally means Hero Sages from the Cosmos Island, which doesn't make much sense.
Sounds very Japanese.
Yeah, and that is something you see in a lot of the names and what they reference and how they've named planets. Operations is they've simply in German there's a lot of words you can put and it's compounded together for it to make sense. And what they've essentially done here to make a lot of the names and everything which I just said is they just combine words together, and that's their naming convention. It's not technically grammatically correct, but it's just kind of a neat little tidbit, and it kind of gives hints to kind of who characters are, where they come from all the time. So like Kirkais, what they were trying to do was hint that he is the person with the red head because he has red hair, but if you literally translate it, it's more like iced church, which doesn't make sense to his character. So there you go. There's that. All right. So Andrew, since you are the guest, you will have the honors to give us your thoughts over the show before we start breaking it down. Perfect.
So I've only seen the first 26 episodes. I haven't seen the whole thing, and I know we're only talking about the first 26. Sorry. What? So I love it. I think it's really well written. I think it's great. If you can get past that really poorly sung intro, and the very 80s animation. In terms of like, that is some 80s hair, by the way. By the way, the hair in this anime, mwah, so 80s, love it.
The perm is strong.
Yes, not just but like, have you seen some of that mustache game going on? Anyway,
Yes.
I forget his name, but basically porn stash kun. But
I think
honestly, no,
that was Ansbach.
No, it's not Ansbach. His name, it's definitely something else. I'll look it up when somebody else is giving their opinion. So, really well developed, well fleshed out. I think the world is, as much as a lot of things don't make sense in this world, a lot of things are, like, at least on a philosophical, political philosophical level, are well thought out, well brought to the forefront. And it's interesting the kind of, are they really going to try to answer the question of what way to quote unquote rule is better, or, you know, police the people, or, you know, make people do things? I'm not trying to bury the lead on that, but for the most part, I think it's well done. And I really do enjoy it. And yeah, no, Yang Wen Lee, definitely awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so is Lowen Reinhard, but obviously best boy is Kirkiais.
Ooh, best boy Kirkiais. Well, that's a question I've posed later.
Oh, my bad. So buried the lead. Oops.
No. It's good. It's good to reference what we're going to cover in the future. It's fine. All right. So, so you liked it. Good. Okay. Icky, why don't you go second?
Yes. First of all, I really like the Borg Sing opening. It's just great with everyone appearing in the sky and stuff like that. I was like, that's very unnecessary. And the ending is the same thing. You can invert the ending and the opening. It wouldn't make any difference. I enjoyed a lot the first 26 episodes, actually. I went to law school, so I know a lot about law and sociology and politics. So this show, when it comes to politics and history and things like that, it is really good. The fourth dimension chess, the characters play, when Lee and Reinhardt play against each other because they're kind of rivals. It is very interesting. Of course, the battles itself, it has a lot of art of war, and there's a lot of callbacks to actual historic battles that happen. I would say most of the time they reference Greek wars and Roman wars, because you can see the tactics used. Of course, Wen Lee is a better tactician when it comes to the battle itself, in my opinion, because he can think the battle in a 3D space, so he can go down and up, while Reinhardt usually just go in the x-axis. But that's fine. It is very interesting how the characters behave, how they bounce each other. Of course, there are some issues. Most of the time, the biggest issue I had was with the animation, because some props disappear, especially guns. A character has a gun, he puts the gun in the waist, and then they have the waist shot where there should be a gun and the gun disappeared. So they played a little bit of hide the banana there. And things like that, things disappearing. There's a lot of information missing. There's a big piece of information that missed when it comes to the Empire Civil War, because Reinhardt makes some prisoners start a coup d'etat in the Alliance. So you're like, okay, now the Alliance is fucked because they have an attempt of coup d'etat, and the Empire can try and attack. Then when Lee goes, no, they're having a civil war now. I was like, wait, what? When? They don't tell you those kind of things. So it is a little bit of missing information, but that's fine, because again, it is just simply awesome to watch.
We'll definitely come back to that missing information part, because I do have something to add to that as well. Tori, what are your thoughts on the show?
Yes. So again, I've only seen the first 26 episodes, and it's been an enjoyable ride so far. I like it's definitely, you can definitely feel like this is absolutely, like, the writing is well thought out for the most part. It's it tries to keep a very tight hold of its story. I like that on one hand. The other hand of me, though, is I like more. How do I say this? I like a bit more like emotion, and a bit more fluxion into the stories, and I feel like the stories that are told are often too tight for me, which prevents me from enjoying it like a lot. But it's still pretty well written. So I do like the show, and obviously the characters are pretty interesting, and just the general tactics and war that's going on. It's interesting, and I'm definitely planning on checking out more of it because I do really want to know where it's all going to lead. So
wait, so because of how it's written, you didn't care for you didn't care for it because you couldn't make your own theories about what was happening? I'm not sure if I heard that right.
I do like it. It's not that I don't care for it. What I'm saying is, if I were to put a number to it, where I'm at right now is I'm at like a 7. Like, I enjoy the show. It's good. But for me, what prevents me from enjoying it more, prevents me from just going, oh, I really enjoyed this episode. Oh, that was fantastic. It's the fluidity and the emotion in the story. Because for me, the story is too rigid and too tight. A lot of stuff, and here it kind of ties into not just what's being written, but the narrator and whatnot. Because what they try to do is they try to make sure that you, as the viewer, is on top of most of the stuff. Like Iki says, there's some information that disappears and isn't really told. But for the most part, it tries to make sure that the viewer is on top of everything that's going on at this current moment.
Right.
And I feel like that prevents me from really enjoying it, because I feel like it's like being told what I need to pay attention to. And there are stories like that I like.
Oh, interesting.
And so far this is one of them. But it's not something I love. I don't like being told what to think, or not what to think, but like what to pay attention to. I think that's jailing the viewer, like, in the story.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I find that also quite interesting as a way to look at it.
So yeah, but that's like, again, that's just what it's been doing so far for me. But again, I do enjoy it. It's been fun. It's been a fun ride so far. Seeing, the rise of oh my god, I'm so Reinhardt, yeah. Reinhardt, and just his rivalry with fucking god, Jan Wendley. Yeah. I'm so bad with names. Jesus Christ. Anyways, seeing that rivalry and the kind of back and forward there as well, and the tactics and whatnot, it's very interesting. It's just, I would like less of that. Give me less of the narrator, please. And I have to give it minuses for being done by Artland as well, because I'm sorry, but I really don't like Artland. I really don't like how they handle their stories, or not the stories. I really don't like how they handle their animation. I really don't like how they do production. I've had a lot of problems. Artland over the years has had a lot of production issues, and ultimately that's their lack of funding and problems caused them to shut down in recent years. But it's kind of been something that's followed them for ages, and it's very apparent in this one as well.
I have a quick question before you go to your thoughts, JD, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, go for it, man.
So, Tori, I guess my question, because you feel like the narrator Jay was directing your attention to what you should have been paying attention to. Do you think, given how many different groups of people, factions, going on at any given moment in the story, do you think you would have been able to, I guess, keep track of what is going on without that?
That was my similar question I was going to ask, actually.
I mean, that's obviously hard to tell. I do think... Oh, okay. I don't think it's easy to keep track of everything, because, obviously, this is a huge universe, and there's a lot of stuff going on at once. But my problem isn't so much like my problem isn't it's not that they decided to try to consolidate things that try to remind you of stuff to keep you like up to date with what's going on. I don't mind that he wants to do that, but my problem is I generally don't like, even if I forget stuff, what I don't like is being told what to watch or what to pay attention to. As lame as it's going to sound, I actually prefer forgetting stuff sometimes, but it obviously depends. But again,
if I'm gauging what you're saying right, when the show gets you to forget a couple things instead of always telling you, then when that said something comes back at a later date, it comes with a bit of a surprise, and then it kind of raises your emotion to that moment, because then you have that emotional realization, like, oh, I remember that again.
Yes, and that's kind of what I mean when I said that. It's not the emotion of this show has been kind of dead so far, because it feels like essentially you're being not always, not every time, but there are certain instances where it feels like the show really has a tight grip on you as the viewer. As like it's really like being sure, like, you need to remember this person, he's going to be important later. This person, he's going to be important later. These things are very important. Keep this in mind. We're going to remind you. Remember. I don't like that type of storytelling. That's not what I enjoy in anime. That's not what I enjoy in stories. It's kind of it's one of those things that I dislike from literature as well, from reading books. I remember because as a kid, we would read a lot of books where the author is describing every little detail or every little thing with as much unnecessary detail as is humanly possible. It's like, it reminds me of that. It's like, it wants you not just to understand that he's walking on a mountain and there are loose rocks. No, you need to know that there's moss on these rocks, what color this moss is, the temperature that's currently out, the wind that's... It's like, I don't like that.
Well, luckily this show doesn't do it to that extent.
Luckily. If it did, I would have hated it.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I never actually viewed the narrator in that particular light as telling you, remember these characters, they're going to be important. The only thing I remember about reminding that characters is, one, a lot of characters do look similar, and there's so many of them that they basically tell you who each character is almost every time they're on screen, which I appreciated, by the way.
That I did, but that's a problem that I put to. That's a problem I put to, again, Artland. Like, again, what I said with the productions. I feel like they definitely could have done stuff to make people more distinct. Certain people, some of them are, but a lot of time it is definitely. I do agree. There is definitely a lot of cases where I'm not sure if you're him or him.
Then they have that little subtitle, this person, and you're like, oh, it's this person. Cool.
Oh, that guy. Yes, of course.
See, I actually, and we'll get to the comparison later, but I actually had a bigger issue with not being able to distinguish people in the remake more than the original.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, I haven't seen that, so I can't say that.
Oh well. Okay, so my turn finally, and I'll be a little bit more shorter as to not repeat everyone. I quite like the romanticism that this show seems to have of what war is, and they don't hit on it to the extent of saying that war is good, but there's a lot of respect going on at the same time, and the overall admiration of what people have to each other, and then to not over romanticize it, they have the other side of the coin where there's political intrigue of kind of this Game of Thrones always going on at any given point in time. The way the show starts might come off as too much narration and too much to take in too fast. And I have experienced this firsthand by trying to show this to people that ask me, can I watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes? And I seemingly always have to warn them of what they're getting into, because the scale that the show has, it's so big, there's so many characters, that those first couple episodes, I almost have to convince them to not care too much about what's happening. Just figure out who is the most important in this moment, and then everybody else will come together over time because there's just so much to take in.
Just follow the ones with the brightly colored hair.
Well, yeah, at first, and personally, I believe the show does an excellent job of that, despite it being so overwhelming. Because all you really do need to care about in that beginning is there's a war going on between these two places, or two sides. You got that, check. And then who rises during that moment, and the show shows you who those people are. And over the course of the series, in this case the first 26 episodes which we're covering, there's so many background characters, and you don't need to remember everybody. And luckily, and I'm on the other side of where Tori stands on this, luckily the narrator and the show kind of hints of who these people are and who you should remember, because then you have characters like Royenthal and Mittermeier from Reinhardt's group that you do kind of see them in the background every now and again. They are kind of in that ragtag group of sharp minds that he puts together, but they're in the background for the moment until their moment comes to rise, and then they shine, and then you go, okay, now I need to truly remember who these guys are. And the show does that. I think it does that perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Basically, like you said, there's a war going on. It's a 150-year war. There's a lot of stuff. And the war is on a stale. No one is moving. You cannot move. It's a trench war, basically. And then it shows you Yang Wenli and Reinhardt. And they are basically the two you really need to watch from. The rest is more of a fixation. The show makes a, let's put it like that, the show makes a JoJo-like thing with the side characters, with the support characters, where every time they are on the screen, someone will shout their name and talk a little bit about them. Like a little bit of a side story about them, a story about the nickname they have, or something like that. So like Oberstein. Every time Oberstein is on screen, of course he's very distinctible because of some stuff. But every time he's on screen, Reinhardt goes Oberstein. So you remember him because of how many times people talk about him or say his name. So you start to associate the characters. That happens with Yang Wenli as well. Yang Wenli always refer to everyone by a name, by a little bit of character introduction, and a little bit of a side story he knows about that character. So like you start remembering because the characters make sure you remember.
It's good, and to just further iterate on the Oberstein comment, when you first see him, he's just a guy at a party. He briefly talks with Kirchheis about his eyes and how, and then he mentions the comment, "If I was born in the Golden Baum era, yeah, in that era, then he would have been killed under this policy." And then you don't see him again until the Iserlohn incident where the Death Star was taken over by the Alliance. And then he escapes. And then finally there's a big moment where he confronts Reinhardt, and that's when you need to start caring about him. And every time there's a character that you need to care about, there's always a singular scene, and it's always emphasized with them. And that's when that character starts to become more into that part of the story, and who you need to care about, and to go along with that, it always continues with the major incident that's happening at the time. So Oberstein was part of Iserlohn. Well, Iserlohn was going on. It was about these other characters and who rises after that, because then you have all these characters that die off, or you don't see them again for a while, or something. So you need that space in the story to be taken up by somebody. and I think that's really good writing. It's tight, as Tori said, and honestly, it's what a lot of not just anime, but a lot of just TV shows are missing even today. And that's what makes you, at least in my perspective, that's what makes me always glued to the screen. And this is my third time watching the show, and I'm still finding myself glued to the screen because of what's happening in front of me. So, as to not, I said I was going to be short, but that didn't happen.
The show isn't short, so.
The show isn't short, no. So, my thoughts on the story being told overall, it's very good. And it goes with the strong characters, and I don't think the animation it's not the focus of the show. It doesn't need to be, because it is a lot of exposition leading up to climactic moments, and even during crazy space war and fight scenes, that's not even that doesn't need to be animated, because of the scale that's so big, and how many ships there are, and how many soldiers there are, how many people that they're in charge of. You end up only seeing blocks on a screen and tactics of what's going on, and then you have character reactions rather than the animation of the ships actually going at it. So
I still generally disagree with that. Not because they need to make some sort of giant spectacle out of everything that happens, but because I still think that there are still minor things they could do to make even the still frames more visually appealing to look at, more interesting to look at. And I feel like oftentimes, and again, this is a problem with Artland, always, they never do. They never wanna take that extra mile. If they don't have to do something, they will absolutely not do it.
Well, I mean, in the later episodes of the 26 we watched, that start happened. You can see different types of ships and different models of ships, depending on the fleet they are. They have a different color, a different model, like some details that make you, if you pay attention, it's like, oh, that's not the same fleet as the other one. I was shooting the lasers.
Gotta be done by Magic Bus then. I refuse to believe that.
Okay.
It was by the other studio. It's not possible it was by this one. It's like moments in, what was it, Darling of the Franks? Anytime there was an issue in animation, well, that's not Trigger's fault. That's got to be A1.
Okay, that's not me. That's the other people. And I think they're retarded.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem I really had with the battles is, despite the fact they are huge, like insanely huge, the number of casualties are really low.
You really think so?
Yeah, of course.
Not really.
Until you have like that failed battle where like 30 million people died.
30 million.
All right, that I can understand. It's a big, it's a really, really big fight. But in the first fight, where Yang Wenli becomes like the captain of the fleet, where two whole fleets were annihilated and everyone died, there was like 30,000 casualties.
Yeah, in that singular battle, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, I personally think that works sometimes, because there have been times where it's literally like a battle starts and then literally like 2 seconds in, yeah, we've lost 15,000 people. Like, makes sense. That's like a ship.
Well, I think in terms of that kind of scale, that shows to the current position that both Reinhardt and Yang Wenli were in. So they didn't have a larger position. They didn't have as many soldiers to control. The battles that they were in were much smaller. And then as the show progresses, they get more responsibility. They control more soldiers. Therefore, more people die in bigger battles because they're more important to go along with their role.
Well, even when the prince attacks the planet with nukes, 2 million people die. Like, there were only 2 million people in the planet.
Oh, you just reminded me of that. This is not even a problem I have. Legend of the Galactic Heroes in like itself. I have this problem with a lot of stuff. It's that idea. It's like, we went to visit this one planet, and then they visit this one tiny town on this planet, and apparently that's the planet.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Well, there is. They kind of touch on that with the narrator going about history and kind of flashbacks with how all these planets were terraformed, and it's really just kind of singular towns, and everyone builds around this one town, and over time, they will colonize the planet and everything, but they can't do that yet because there's just not enough people, and the fact that all the people are going to war for the Empire and for the Alliance, and they're all dead.
I don't know. I just don't like the fact. I just never like that. They're like, we went to visit a new planet. Oh, we saw these people. That was the planet. And it's like, what? No.
It made sense to me because of
it works in the context of the show.
Yeah.
Because just think of the time frame. Only 150 years have really passed since they've really been colonizing, or maybe even 500 years. When you think about it, the population does grow exponentially, and when you start with so few people, it's still going to take some time.
I can see it, because like the only thing you can really compare, the only thing you have to compare are the Gundam.
Yeah, you're right.
Space catastrophe is where 5 billion people die, and you're like, holy shit, what? Damn. So like when you see 3,000 people dying in a battle, which I think one of those ships alone is operated by 3,000 people, or 30,000 people, the scale seems a little weird. And it wiggles a little bit from time to time. Sometimes it's a lot for what is happening. Sometimes it's really not that much to what happened. But that's fine. It's just an observation.
I'd rather. I think it makes more sense for it to be inconsistent with how many people are where and die in certain things, as opposed to everything's uniform, because that's not how things actually work. So, I have a series of questions and topics here. I asked you guys if there was anything you guys wanted to talk about, and there was nothing, so I just made them up my own. Questions of morality was big in the show. So the questions is this done right, or is it just for political jargon and not meaning much? So I have an example here. Oberstein's plan during the Alliance invasion into their star system to take away all food and provisions prior to the attack. Or as you mentioned earlier, Hickey with with nuking the planet. That happened later. That was another Oberstein plan. Yeah. What do you guys think over these morality questions in the show? Was it done right? Was it just for political jargon, etc., etc.?
Well, I think that what's interesting about the show is, like you mentioned there, right? What is best and I alluded to this earlier, what is the best governing philosophy, right? Mm-hmm. Is a benevolent dictator any worse than a corrupt democracy?
Yep.
Or is there anything inherently right or wrong with both? And I think the show does, at least for the first 26 episodes, pose the question. It doesn't even attempt really to answer it, but goes on to show that there are problems with both, and as much as there are advantages with both. And I don't know at this point if it ever even can. I don't even know if you could ever really answer that question, but the show does go and explores the fact that there are, as much as this term has become corrupted in recent political climates, there are good and bad people on both sides.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think it does it well.
Yeah, and as they say in the show, the good people always die first.
Oh yeah, there's no. Well, I mean, the nobility got what they had coming to them.
Well, what was the name of that guy who dies in like the first episode? Lap, is it? No, that's not it.
Yeah, the Yang's friend.
Yeah.
That was Yang's friend, Lap, and Yang goes, he was a good guy, hated war. Naturally, he just dies first. Snap of the fingers. He's done. Yeah. Forget it.
I'm gonna get his wife now.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. His wife
No, not exactly.
Oh, if she would have just stayed at home.
Oh no.
Well, as much as I
guess in hindsight.
Yeah. Actually, that does lead me. I mean, on a side note, I don't know if you put that in your document about the fact that there's just a lack of women in this universe in any position.
So there was I can't remember if it was in the remake or this one. I did rewatch the remake as well for this review, for the comparison section. There was a line at one point, it might even be later in the show that they tackle it, where why aren't there a lot of women in the show? And that's because they're not allowed to join the military anymore, at least not in the Empire's case, because they need soldiers. And how do you make soldiers? Well, they need to reproduce, kind of deal. Yeah. And even the Alliance even the Alliance, I believe, touches on it at the beginning or later. It could be. I could be mixing up my facts here over the show, but it's for the similar reasons.
Yeah, so that's essentially what I gathered from it. Like, I mean, the way I make sense of that is just kind of like JD says, and women aren't allowed in the military. Like we've seen
missing as well.
Yeah, but we've seen, like, for example, you saw that one like doctor or nurse or whatever she is, right, on the Alliance side, I think. But it's like, and obviously you have Young Wenli's assistant now. But other than that, there aren't exactly a ton of women. I think I don't think that's like a problem. I think that's fine. It would, like, I mean, fuck, it's still here today. We have lots of militaries who are still like, we can't have women in the military. That is just impossible. Women don't belong in the military. So I was like, to me, that makes sense to me. So I don't know. Doesn't bother me.
I guess what I got from the questioning is that even if it's not in the military, you don't see a lot of women anywhere.
Yeah, that's because
you see with the nobles when it comes to the Empire, it's one or two. Not even as background characters, you see them in the Aliens. Like, it's quite rare actually to see them. Usually they are all the way in the background. Like, so I understand it. Usually you see men. Even in the front part of the background, usually are males. I can see that.
Reinhardt's sister is all the woman you need in that show.
I suppose in certain lights, that's very... Why do I need women in the show when there's that amazing relationship between Reinhardt and Kierkeis going on?
Oh, yeah.
I said Reinhardt's sister. JD, whoa, what are you
doing? Oh, my bad. Where's my mind going?
No.
Jesus.
God, I have things to say about Anna Rose when we get there. But that's in the comparison section.
Sure.
So, sorry, continue on. Are we on still morality of the world?
I mean, if we want to keep going, we can, or we can just go on to my next question.
I love the narrator.
Okay, the next question is, what do you guys think of the narrator in this episode? Or in the show? I
think the fact that anime doesn't use narrators anymore for 99% of the shows is a crime.
Damn.
Because
look, I can see it. It depends on the show, really.
No,
it really depends. I don't like if we say that 99% of the shows nowadays are just moe traps. You don't need a run narrator for that. It's like,
fucking the less narrators in shows we have, the better. God, I really don't like narrators.
Yeah, no.
What about Legend of the Galactic Heroes story? Did you feel the same way?
I've already said my thoughts on the narrator in Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I'm not a huge fan.
Well, just
okay. I have two problems with the narrator. The first one, he's very apathic. He's just there.
He's a narrator, man.
Is he,
Yeah, but
is he
I
supposed to
prefer
be
a-
like, Sunday, 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 at Iserlohn, we have the Alliance on one side against their evil Empire villains.
You know, like you basically in literature, you
Mortal
have three types.
Kombat!
In literature, you have three types of narration. You have the character narrating. You have a ominous godlike being narrating the story, which is this case, or you have a character which is not in the main roast. He's just a citizen of the world narrating the facts. So I believe it would be, it would be better if we had a citizen or someone in power or something like that narrating the story. So he would give him his impressions about what's happening with this war. Maybe someone in Fezan narrating what is going on. So like he narrates what goes on, but he also gives a little bit of his opinion with the words used or the intonation used. I think this is the best type of narrator for a war story, not the omnious god being.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't like the.
Okay, Hickey. I'm sorry, Tor. I'm gonna interrupt here. So Hickey, you're thinking someone like a Julian or maybe some third party on Phazon who knows the facts of the history of the war, and he would be the narrator to give us like someone we can associate with rather than just this this voice coming on.
When we have the planet being nuked, instead of narrating the narrator just going, yeah, no, the planet got nuked and now this is gonna happen and blah 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 blah. No, it's like, well, there was a atrocious thing that happened and that was really bad. And not even I can agree with that. He gives his own opinions of the facts he's narrating. And I think for war story, that's better. So that's one of my problems. The second problem is that usually he narrates the same thing, especially with the Empire. 40 years ago, the king became king and blah, 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 blah. Here we are now. And that happened 3 times in the show.
Well, that's a thing of 80s or just like older anime.
Well, that only happens with the Empire. This is the problem.
Well,
Sometimes it happens with Fizan, but like usually the Empire, they go back at 60 years and start narrating from 60 years in the past.
Well, the Empire is where all the history began, and that's kind of the point with Rudolph.
Well, they don't go all the way with the history. They only talk about the king, and then the king dies.
Well, think about it. Think about it. The Alliance represents loosely the expansion of the West. America being founded, or North America, or even South America in general, with some Japanese, Chinese culture mixed in, while the Empire is Central and Scandinavian history. So when you put it in that sense, European history is much deeper than the North American history. So when the narrator comes on, he starts going on about the history of the Empire and Rudolph founding, and then it stems into the Alliance being founded by going to the new world, loosely put.
Yeah, I understand that. What I don't understand is why you need to tell me 3 times how Rudolph came to be king. It's not new story. It's not part of the history. It's
okay. Actually, I do. I think this is. I think I can explain this because I think this is something we keep forgetting in the conversation. Is that this wasn't released in? This was an OVA.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't.
It was released.
You're right.
Yeah.
It was released over a year, and they were released in batches. They weren't released one episode in a regular interval. Like if you look at the release cycle, I think it was like a few episodes at a time. Every few months they would release to get your season, and sometimes it was over a year, or sometimes it was over 2 years. So I think sometimes why those things are there to remind you at 3 different points is because there might have been a large enough gap since when people saw it, and chances are, I'm pretty sure, especially when these were coming out, usually I think there's like people would buy it, put it away. I don't think you don't keep things as long in Japan just because of the lack of space.
Right.
So most of the times people would probably be renting it. So just in case you would forget, the narrator would be like, oh, by the way, reminder. Because, yeah, I think that is something to keep note of.
That
You're absolutely
actually
right,
makes
Andrew.
a lot of sense. I believe you're right, but I still think it's not necessary. But what you said makes absolutely a lot of sense.
I did mention it was 110 episode OVA released over the course of, I said 10 years, a decade, and going into that detail is very noteworthy. Yeah, I agree.
Tori, I know you had a point. I don't know if you forgot it, but just a just a quick thing. I think the narrator should be robotic in a sense, like, because I think the narrator is supposed to be a historian writing the actual history of this world, looking back at it from way down in the future and just putting in the facts. And I think all the emotional context you're supposed to get from the scenes is from the actual characters living the story. So like when you read a history book, right? You read, well, X people died in this battle, and this person did this, and X amount of people died when this person did that. But if you actually were able to travel through time and see the story, then you'd actually get the actual emotional context behind it. I guess. I don't know. That's how I viewed the story in a way.
I viewed it in a very similar way. But Tori, go on. I'm sorry.
Nah, fuck it. No. Okay, so like, I sort of agree, kind of both ways. I can agree to a certain point that like the narrator shouldn't be overly or can be kind of like deadpan in this reminiscence of what, because I can agree. Like, you could say that it is a historian looking back. For me, one of the most bigger problem is the all-knowing teller over the story. This type of narrator for me is something that I just generally find more interesting in books rather than in television or OVA. So that's kind of my problem for it. It's like his inclusion, and again, I also understand he needs to remind people of this stuff because this was released in batch, and it could be years in between and whatnot. And I understand that, but I don't watch it that way. So I then get like front loaded with a lot of stuff that I'm like, okay, I know this. You've told me. It's annoying now. Stop.
It is a retro perspective at the end of the day, for sure.
Yeah, and I can't put myself into what it was like watching it when it was released, buying it when it was released, because I didn't do that. I wasn't there. I wasn't alive.
Oh, you're such a kid.
I know.
You young ones.
Born in '95. What a child.
God, you're so young.
But I'm in agreement a lot with Andrew on the narrator part. Anime is totally missing the point on what you can do with a narrator, especially in terms of just telling a story in general, and a long story at that. I also want to re-emphasize the sense of romanticism in the show. And the narrator really adds to that, especially, say, at the end of episodes and certain events where the narrator will, it'll be a painting screen over the event that just occurred, and then the narrator will come on and be like, and in that moment, Yang didn't say a single word for the next 2 days. And that led up to, X event that was going to happen down the line. Ooh. Kind of moment. That's how I kept watching the show and reacting to all that. And even at the beginning of episodes with the narrator, where it was recounting certain things, it gave me a further sense of romanticism for just events occurring, and added something to the characters without really needing to. So, moving on. The next question. And this is Hickey's little bread and butter here. I'm not sure how much more we can add to it, since we've touched on a lot of it already, is the missing information to useless information. So, Hickey, why don't you start with that one?
Well, I mean, it's fairly simple. The happenings of the show, they are not parallel. So you don't see the same time period in the Aliens and then what happened in the Empire. It's a single fluid history line.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what happens is there's a lot of missing information to when some events started. Like I said, we're talking about, like, we're seeing the coup d'etat happening in the Alliance. And you're like, well, now the Empire can attack, try to take Iseloth back or something like that. And Yang Wen-Li goes, no, they're having a huge civil war there. And people are dying and stuff like that. And they never mentioned that. That came out of nowhere, because the last time you saw the Empire, it was Reinhardt planning the Alliance coup d'etat. And he's like, now it's my time to ascend to the throne. Good. Alliance, you have the beginning of the coup d'etat, you have all the coup d'etat, but the beginning of the civil war in the Empire, you never had. It was Young just mentioned it casually. So
I wouldn't say it's casual. There was a whole meeting to it all occurring on Iserlohn.
I say casually because, like, he's all laid back and he's just with his arm crossed. Yeah, so it's still casually, JD.
But he knew that there was nothing he could do about it because of his ideals of what a democracy is, and it's.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I'm talking about the Civil War. It's like, people are like, well, do you think the Empire will attack us now? So, like, those people, they didn't know about the Civil War as well. And Wang Li just goes, oh no, they're having a Civil War.
No. There was a whole sequence, part of an episode of that meeting where Yang Wen-Li's has all of his generals, I guess, at Iserlohn, and he's going, because that oncoming envoy of the prisoner exchange was all part of.
Yes, but what he says is basically there are probably some traitors, and they will start something, and that's probably part of the plan of Reinhardt to ascend to power. That's what he says.
Well,
and then, after the coup d'etat started, he goes and say, no, there's a civil war going on in the Empire. But they never mentioned that before. You don't see the beginning of the civil war. It's just casually mentioned. The fact that civil war is going on is casually mentioned. Yang Wen-Li, he just knows that Reinhardt will try to do something to the Alliance. That's basically what he mentions in the meeting.
Well, he says that they're doing this so Reinhardt will be able to focus on what's going to happen in the Empire, and they're not totally sure what that's going to be. And then you can assume that news comes across that, a civil war is occurring. He believes, and he says that it was a theory, he bases it on nothing, and that's why he couldn't actually, give it all to the High Council, and it's better to have the prisoners returned to them. And I wish it would have shown more of the Alliance coup d'etat building and occurring, rather than it just goes, okay, now it's occurring, coinciding with what Reinhardt had originally planned of the civil war occurring on his end. If that's clear.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of missing information in the secretaries as well of the Alliance. They just show us, and especially not only Greenhill, I believe every single one of them.
What are your thoughts, Andrew?
That's interesting. So I don't know. I'll admit it's been, I think, about I watched it earlier this year, the first 26 episodes, and then I watched the whole remake afterwards. I didn't feel like it was missing anything, because when it does happen, it makes perfect sense, right? Because I think Yang knows, well, obviously this prisoner exchange is a plot, but I can't, because the reason he doesn't try and stop it is because I can't be the chiefs of staff can't be the assholes who don't let their soldiers come home, right? because it looks politically bad. But something's going to happen, but there's nothing. Something might happen, but I have no way of knowing what's going to happen. And given his position as commander of Iserlon, I'm pretty sure he's getting all these like tips and like whispers coming through about what's going on. So when the coup happens and the on both sides and the rebellion happens, you kind of go, okay, cool, they're happening simultaneously. But I don't know, like, I feel like the coup on the Empire side or the rebellion on the Empire side is alluded to throughout the show as it goes along, right? Because the all the nobles aren't happy with Reinhardt from the get-go. They're like, he's growing way beyond his means. It's only because of his sister's hotness, quote unquote, that he's getting anywhere.
She's using her good looks to get into the good graces of our Majesty, kind of deal.
Essentially, yeah. And on the Alliance side, it does really come out of nowhere. But then again, a lot of times when coups happen, they come out of nowhere.
At least they're supposed to seem that way.
Yeah,
and then the show does have a brief little moment where it's like, well, there were these military exercises, and because it was by this guy, no one thought twice about it.
And on top of that, right, like, your main focus characters are Yang and Reinhardt. So as much as it's a quote unquote, as much as it sort of surprises Yang, it's not a surprise. He's just like, fuck. And
he's like, all right, I'm glad I kind of prepared for this, but I didn't prepare for it well enough, because at the end of the day, he did say it was all theory. And what could he possibly do to the extent of a theory? And he couldn't predict Greenhill's father becoming the coup leader, which was pretty cool. I like that twist in the story a little bit.
And the reason why he is able to go and deal with it is because he knows that the Empire is having a coup, having their own little internal rebellion war going on. So he knows he can leave Iserlon with a minimal retinue and go travel back to what is it, Heinesen, to take back control. So yeah, no, I get it. There's like things that are missing, but I think from what I understand, a lot of information also comes later on in the series as well.
Yes,
in a lot of
they fill in
context.
a lot of gaps. Yeah.
And because the OVAs don't adapt they adapt all the books, but they adapted it in their way of doing it.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
And I think in the remake, which we'll get to, adapted the book more faithfully. So
we'll definitely get to that. All right, Tori, anything to add, or shall we move on?
No, nothing specific. I feel like there's a kind of, like, I see where Ike is coming from, but I do think, like, as far as like hinting about stuff and putting in minor things that you can eventually see that, like, it would lead to lead to a coup and whatnot. So it's like, when it happened, it wasn't like, okay, whatever. And in terms of like how young Wenley knows, I mean, you do have the like neutral part that's like been established multiple times. They're working with both sides to get information out as fast as possible.
Right.
So, although they're trying to align themselves more with the Alliance now, but still, so it's like it makes enough sense for me to not go like, oh, plot hole.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my next question poses, it kind of goes off that, is what did the show focus on too much or lack thereof? So I have some examples here. Too much on the culture of each side. Too much on the Empire and dissension within the military and nobility, and then not enough focus on the Alliance and Yang himself, which we saw differently in the remake. Get to later. So did anything stick out or whatnot? And I'll go first. The idea of culture, I think, wasn't hit on quite enough in my opinion. There was, I mean, it was just too subtle. And rewatching it is when I started picking up on a lot more of it, such as a lot more of like words and phrases they use, especially from the Empire side, steeped in its Central European way of life. And Hickey, you were even bringing up much of World War I-esque type military tactics, and the way they dressed stands out a lot. So things like that. There was a lot of culture missing from the Alliance side of how they do it. It was just, they just kind of went, it's a democracy at the end of the day. What's there to really talk about? And maybe that's because, to touch on what I said earlier, there's just not a lot of history to the Alliance and Heinessen, its home planet, as opposed to the Empire, which is much older and has all that to go off of. So that was something that really stood out to me. I quite liked the more focus on the Empire and its dissension than, say, always to relaxed Yang all the time, just going, I can't be bothered all the time kind of idea. They're just here to pay my salary. I have to go along with it kind of deal. What's everyone else's take?
I can sort of agree with the lack of focus on culture in the Alliance side. I can't exactly say that. It's not exactly been bothering me, mostly because there's quite a lot of other stuff to take in anyways. So it's like it kind of offsets that. But yeah, I can see that. As far as things it focuses too much on, nothing really sticks out, because I just think there's a lot of stuff they should focus a lot on. And in terms of is there stuff they should focus more on? Yes, there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to be focused more on. But they have more episodes. So it's like, from where I am right now, I can't exactly, with any confidence, say that this was focused too much on, or this was not focused on enough. I don't know where it's going to go going forward.
Okay.
So
that's a good sign. No, that's a good sign. Andrew, Hickey, anything?
I think so. I know in the first 26 episodes, it focuses very much on the characters. And you get hints of the culture, especially in some of those side episodes, at least on the Empire side. The Alliance, I just kind of figured it was, secular North America as it is now. So I never really thought of much about the culture beyond it.
Yep.
And I feel like you get more about it as you watch the next 70 plus episodes.
Yeah. Standing at 26 episodes is very hard to say what they lack on or what they did too much. I believe there should be a little bit more Faison, especially after the mustache twirling plot stuff that is forming.
Rubinsky and Faison and what role he plays. I am with confidence.
Cultists and stuff like that. So they should at least come back before episode 26, but that's probably the main plot after half of the show, so I'm not too worried about it.
There you go. And that was definitely something I was hoping was going to come up. With confidence, I can tell you that Faison and Rubinsky and the cult plays a major role in the series to come. So, no worry there.
God, speaking of Faison, honestly, okay, so they explain it in the remake, right? Why there's only two paths through space to get across these two the Empire and the Alliance, which makes no sense, period. But okay, fine. Let's look at space as a 2D object. Okay, you can only go through these two locations. I have a hard time believing that Faison can exist as a neutral country. Planet, sorry.
At
all, given World War II and how neutrality literally means shit all to whoever just decides to be the dick and wants to like invade will invade.
I don't know. Switzerland did good in both world wars, so I guess
that's kind of that's a good comparison to make because that is exactly what the reference is as well. Is that Phazon is the role of Switzerland in all this?
They are small.
Yep.
They are mostly white.
And well,
Switzerland.
I guess you could put and the fact that Switzerland is surrounded by mountains, and it was a strategic kind of stronghold type deal, and they were so small they were insignificant to even bother with, along with their financial success. And then the role Phazon does play is because of what their quote unquote path is into each other through space. And I wish that both the remake and the original would have gone into just a bit of detail of why this pathway and this pathway were the only.
They do in the remake more. It's just that there are weird space storms. Space storms all around make it impossible.
The huge electrical type ray fields that's going on. Gravitational pulls and whatnot.
Yeah. Allows it like so those two areas are Lagrange points as they would be used in the Gundam terminology. But even if Phazon is an analogy or analogous to Switzerland, it's in such a strategic position.
Yeah, that's where
not
the
make sense.
suspension.
That's where
that's where the suspension of disbelief kind of has to come into play there.
In the first 26 episodes, they explain it's the point where the Empire and the aliens they make trading. So like there's commerce going on there,
so they can provide for the war kind of deal.
It's good for both sides. Of course, they are fighting, but they're still making deals with each other in a very symbiotical type of relationship where they fight, but they also, have a lot of trade deals between each other. And that happens. Sometimes two countries go to war and they still make commerce between each other. So that's basically why Phazon is there. And both the Alliance and the Empire, although it's a strategic point and it will be good to have it on either side, it's better to have it as a neutral ground so they can, buy and sell products from each other.
Yeah, there we go. No, it's excellent. It's an excellent point to make for sure. And they do touch on, I believe it was the Alliance when they were, when the High Council was in their little session deciding how they want to take advantage of Yang Wenli's big war success, and they wanted to invade Empire territory, or at least the border planets between them and Iserlohn, and the economic advisor was like, no, if we do this, we're gonna fucking crash the market. Essentially, our currency is gonna be absolutely worthless. We'll be selling things by the pound. And I think in those kinds of moments, that's when it would have been very much appropriate to bring up Phazon and what role they play. They could a simple line, like, well, we're just gonna have to increase trade deals with Phazon, but they don't do that. I can't quite remember if that line was said in the remake. I don't think so. Still, I think it was still missing.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's speed it up a bit, because I do want to get to the just kind of the rundown of the comparisons. At least I made when I was rewatching both of them. I want to bring this into kind of what our favorite things were of the show, because I think we've talked this show to death, but there's such a wide range of topics that we can keep going on and on and on, and hopefully we can come back to the show by doing season 2 of it at some point down the line. But let's just go into things that we enjoyed. I would love to go first if you guys don't mind. No? All right.
Go for it.
All right. I quite like the depiction of age, making the generals, military personnel stand out. by actually making them look young and old respectively, and even middle-aged. So you see a lot of the older generals with gray hair, something that was grossly missing in the remake, which we'll get there for sure. So a lot of the, especially like Meerkats comes to mind. He looks distinctly older than a lot of other people in the Empire. So it immediately makes him stand out as this kind of knowledgeable old man, at least from his standpoint. I loved the music and, again, sense of scale. The show is highly emphasized. There was a lot of classical music used in the show, again, hinting on that, or harping on that romanticism element that I loved so much about it. I found that the music and that scale was mostly absent in the remade 12 episodes, but the battles were taken priority for showmanship. So I'm wondering if, I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm just saying it was just something I noticed. Was a choice that was made. I do pose this question: who is your favorite or best side character? So not Yang, Kirchheis, or Reinhard. I think personally, my favorite would definitely have to be, or at least my favorite is Oberstein, at least in the first 26. The role he plays and how he rises up to his position. I especially like Oberstein a lot. Favorite episode or sequence is for sure to me the episode 15, the Battle of Amrastar. And for those that haven't watched it yet, it is the fallout battle from the Alliance failed takeover into the Empire section, in which the scorched earth tactic was used. Love that, and it became a major turning point in the show. And then there's a question I want to pose before we get to the remake. So, take it from there, Andrew.
Okay, so I love the episode where Anna Rose gets kidnapped. No, that's actually a really bad episode.
It's one of the stronger ones, that's for sure. It does play a role well enough, and it's kind of a culture episode as well.
So yeah, I think I love the Rosenritter, and at least the guy who heads him up.
Schoenkopf.
Yeah, Schoenkopf.
Beautiful head is what his name translates to.
I fucking love. Well, he does not have a beautiful head in that,
but he has. But he has that personality where he's always talking about how good looking he is all the time.
In the remake, he is a total bishi, by the way. But in this one, he isn't. But no, honestly, I think he's pretty awesome for the most part.
Schoenkopf is awesome. Yeah.
Just the comments he makes. He has that that laissez-faire, but obviously is trying asshole attitude that I just fucking love sometimes in the character when they pull it off properly. Mm-hmm. He's just like, well, you could always take over the Alliance, and I'm pretty sure you could do a better job than all these idiots. It's like,
hey, Yang Wen-li, if everything goes according to, why don't you be the dictator? He's like, no.
Yeah, so I love his as someone who's been watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race recently, he just likes to throw shade, but like side shade. It's hilarious.
He does.
It's great. It's great. But I also like. I just love his character in general. So that's why. And every time he does something in the show, it's really good. So that's one of my favorite things in the show are from that.
Okay. Hickey, why don't you go next?
All right. My favorite things of the show. The music, the sense of scale the music can give you sometimes. I really enjoy the politics. They're great. The history as well. The battles and how they relate to our history, especially Asian history. The tactics, they are very simple, so you can understand. And they are very reminiscent of Art of War, like I said. But I can see it, and I know which battle they used that kind of strategy they use. So it's really cool. As well to, what I would say. Yeah, you also have that faded moral at the background of every episode, which is history. If you don't learn history, it will repeat itself. So we're seeing in the future, allegedly the future, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of years in the future, battles with the same tactics we saw thousands of years ago. which for me is very cool. It's a very interesting way of looking at the tactics, and why not? My favorite character is always as well. It is Oberstein, because he's a tactician and he's a politician, and he has a hatred for the Empire and wants to kill everyone. So I just like him. The way he speaks, the way he thinks, especially like we talked about the nuking of the planet, and he sent a fucking a autopiloting a probe to there to film the nuking and transmit it to everyone so he can make his political point. So yeah, he's a great character so far. So Tori, what are your favorite points of the show?
I kind of agree with what JD said as well about the when it comes to the military, the age.
Oh yeah.
I really like the fact that you have the new blood, the new up and coming heroes, obviously the main characters, and people who have yet to distinguish themselves, as well as the inclusion of people who've been in the military for a while and people who have been their former war heroes and whatnot as well, right? It's cool. It's again one of those things that I enjoy. The I'm not going to call them needless details, but it's the minor details that doesn't necessarily have to be, but it's nice that they do. So that's obviously something, and generally it's just been seeing the art of war that they use, and like Kiki said, how history repeats itself and whatnot. It's been fairly interesting, and yeah. As far as characters, I also agree with Hickey. Oberstein has been very interesting, especially because I can't help but think every time he says something, I'm just like, how's he going to try to fuck over the Empire now? It's like, what's his scheme and what's his idea? And then so that obviously makes him very interesting because he's a smart man, but also scary because you don't really know what he's thinking. You just always wonder what is his end goal
as well. So you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, so it's what is his end goal? What's he trying to achieve? Apart from fucking total disruption.
Yeah, you get that. You really get that. Reinhardt felt keep your enemies as close to you as possible. Know thy enemy.
Yeah,
what's closer
definitely.
than his right hand man kind of deal.
Yeah, although I would have appreciated.
Lee does that with one of the coup d'état guys. He puts him in his ranks. He's like, well, as long as I keep winning, he won't betray me.
I really would have liked it if they stopped getting their enemies so close. You'll know, especially why, for one thing, that happened. But so yeah, they could have. Maybe you shouldn't keep every enemy so close, but
yeah. Well.
It happens. But I also got to give a shout out. I don't remember his name, and I mean, why would I? He died in the same episode he was introduced. But when the fucking the coup was happening, the fucking Neanderthal dude that they have to fight, they're like, I'm big man.
Yeah,
and I kill everyone. The noble dude,
the noble guy. Yeah,
I love that guy. I love that guy. Fucking yeah, I love that guy made it into the fucking show. He's so out of place, and I love it.
Yeah, I like that he is supposed to be a fucking noble, and he just goes around swinging a giant axe.
I love it though when they introduce him, and he's just like, "There's this really dangerous man there. Please, be careful with him. He's gonna be hard. He's gonna be really hard to kill." And I'm like, "Oh, he's just one man. How hard is it gonna be to kill?" And then he just comes out swinging with a fucking axe, and he's just murdering people after. I'm like, "Okay, I see."
I like it when it pans back. I like how it pans back to them when Mittermeier and Royenthal have to go in themselves, and there's just it shows one of those up camera shots, kind of at an angle, and there's just a pile of bodies in front of them.
Oh yeah. No, but I even love the fact when they're like, they're like, how are we gonna kill this man? And then they obviously get the fucking message like, get him to me alive. They're just like, what?
Oh yeah, you don't say anything bad about Anna Rose in front of.
Yeah, no, but it's just like that their reaction where he's like, you get him to me alive, and they're like, we don't even know if we can kill him. You want him captured alive.
Also, his death was just really, really cool. With the brain pieces flying out from his ear and stuff. That was impressed, actually.
That's going to be interesting in the remade movies when it gets to that moment. Like, what are the... I bet it'll just show kind of a... what's the word? A shadow.
Probably.
Shadow happening, just like when Jessica Edwards was like got the shit kicked out of her during the coup.
Yeah, I mean, either that or they'll just change how he dies. But like, but I don't know. Like, I just appreciate him because like he was not there for very long. He doesn't have much screen time. But goddamn it, did he make an impact on that at that time he was on screen?
Yeah, I don't remember his name either off the top of my head. But yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. It was Oberstein. God, him and his cunning. He's like, no. Reinhardt, don't rip out his tongue or kill him. We can use him. Just free him and send him back. The nobles will just, they'll kill him on his own. I mean, sure as shit,
I didn't really like that because again, that place, obviously, he doesn't care of tactics. He just slaughters stuff. That's what all he's good at. He doesn't know anything, and it's just like that's kind of the point. When he gets sent back, it's like, what are you doing here? Weren't you captured? Yeah, they sent me back. Yeah, no way. You betrayed us, didn't you? And he's like, what? It's like, betrayed you? What are you talking about? Let me go and make clear threats to you as I walk up and kick the shit out of people while they try to fucking stop me. I'm totally not going to seem suspicious doing that.
Well, he is a simpleton.
No shit. You're saying I rebelled? Well, let me rebel.
All right. Okay, so here is a big spoiler to the first 26 episodes. So, I don't know, I guess for the next 5 minutes, maybe, skip ahead. So here we go. Was it too early in the series to kill off the important mental stability characters? That's just what I'm calling them. For the stability characters for Yang and Reinhardt in the deaths of Jessica Edwards for Yang and Kierkeis for Reinhardt. Was it too early?
I mean, in terms of Jessica Edwards, I don't really think so.
Okay.
They were mostly separated anyways. So I don't necessarily see that as being that big of a deal in his case. Kierkeis, it was an interesting move. I was expecting something like this to happen at some point. I wasn't expecting it to happen now. So, I mean, obviously, I don't...
There's still like 100 episodes to go.
Yeah, so it does make it interesting. Like, where is he going to go now? Like, are we going to see like a complete 180 of Reinhardt's ideals here? Is he going to be like poisoned by Oberstein going forward? Like, what's... Like that, obviously, again, like I said, why I agree with Heikki, that Oberstein seems like a really interesting character because his influence is going to be very interesting going forward, I feel. So, but I don't know. Like, part of me wants to say yes, but it could be interesting. So I'm not entirely certain.
Curiosity is getting to you. Okay, Andrew,
what's
your take?
Well, I want to say yes for Kierkeis only because there was so much more bromance that could have happened. So when I watched it earlier this year, that was the second time I was watching the show, and in a way, it's sort of foreshadowed to happen for sure. Like I said, you don't expect it by the end of the first season, but it was always foreshadowed that Reinhardt would never be able to do what he needed to do what he wants, as long as Kierkeis was there holding him back, quote unquote.
Yeah, there's that key phrase how Oberstein got in the good graces by foreshadowing that. Yeah.
Jessica Edwards, fuck, man, her death is brutal. Like, it's just well, no, just brutal. Period. Like anybody dying like that, it's brutal.
Yeah.
So it's just fucking brutal. I mean, like, it just, you feel it more because you're just like, oh no, maybe her and Yang could have been happy when he created peace for everybody.
Peace.
He laughs at that moment.
Well, let's just put it this way. First of all, I mean, the Empire got rid of the cock block, which was her husband, and
Yeah.
and then Yang.
That
Yang
is true.
the Empire did get rid of the cock block, which was her husband.
That's a way to put it.
And then Yang cock blocked himself. Well, Julian sort of cock blocked him too, but Julian's a whole other thing. I know people who who do not like his character, but then Yang is just bad with people, so he cock blocked himself a little bit with Jessica afterwards because she was like.
Yeah, Jessica gave a huge flag. She was like, if you called me to dance, I would have danced with you. I was like, your husband just died. Don't do that, please.
Well,
She literally...
they were kind of reminiscing at the same time, though.
No, she gave him come fuck me eyes, and he was all like, "Ow!" So...
Oh, you're talking... okay, you're talking about... Yeah. All right.
I'm talking before, when he meets up with her on the political party planet.
Yeah.
Episode.
I know what you're referencing now.
But then shit blew up.
It did blow up.
Literally.
So, for the most part, I don't think it was too early in really, like, when you look at it from a story perspective. When you think about it and you go back and think about it past the initial shock of, oh my god, they actually just killed that character, was not expecting that. You kind of go, well, it does make sense, because for Yang, it shows that he is much more, like, it gives you the viewer, already knowing that he is a serious character, it shows that he is very much in control of his emotions. He's not laissez-faire. He is very much. It's not like, oh, I just go along with the thing. It's like, he didn't get angry. He didn't get revenge. He's very calculating, contrary to what he would say about himself, and what people may perceive him as. Which is why I think Shenkop is great, because he recognizes that right away. In Yang, it's like, you say you're this, but I really know.
Everyone knows, everyone close to you knows you better than you know yourself, kind of deal.
Yeah,
and
Kirky just fits very perfectly for what needs to happen in terms of the story. Otherwise, the story would, from what I understand, what I would assume would be the same, like the same as the first 26. It would have felt very like a stalemate kind of situation. So these character deaths needed to happen for when they happen, and I think they work.
There's a part of me that thinks the remake isn't gonna kill these two characters, because it's just anime in 2018, and most anime just don't have the balls to do that kind of stuff.
No, they're gonna, because I think what happens is what happens in the book, and they're gonna be faithful to the book, because this is a passion. So it's Production IG, the remake, and it's a passion project for them, sort of like how JoJo is a passion project for David's production.
Yeah, but JoJo makes money, does it not?
And now it does.
Watch JoJo.
Now that's because they actually put the effort behind it to make it what the creator wanted, and it has the creator's approval. Okay. The original anime that was made did not really have the creator's approval. He did not like what they did with it.
Are you talking about the OVA from the 90s?
Whatever JoJo's was out before, the creator was not happy with what they did with it.
Okay.
And so he held back on the rights for the anime for a while, until David Production proved
that they could do something really good with it.
Well, that they were fans. Like, you know how George R.R. Martin, like Game of Thrones creators, TV show creators, only got the gig because they were able to answer that fan theory kind of thing, to show that they were actual fans. So it's sort of like that situation. So with this, if they died in the book, they will die in the show.
Okay.
I'm not worried about it, because it's like, other than character designs, this anime isn't about being a current anime.
Okay. I just thought I'd bring it up, because there's always that kind of back in your head kind of question to it all.
Oh, I'm just like, is it gonna be as powerful? That's my only question.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern I have, for sure.
So, but we got 3 movies coming up in 2019, and assuming they actually put some more character development into those characters before they die, then I think it'll be pretty good.
I wonder how far those 3 movies are gonna go.
I think it's supposed to get to the end of the first season.
So to episode 26. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that would match up with the pace that what they're doing, and that's a good segue to the comparison to the remake in terms of story. And I am going to just read what I have listed here for the sake of time. We don't want to be here forever. Okay.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, really. All right, so the remake goes straight into the backstory, while the original goes more into the overall story. So both still have Reinhardt's backstory, but the motivation to gain power kind of goes down differently. With the original having Reinhardt realize a gun is too small to make a difference moment. That just wasn't in the remake. The remake, he just makes like an angry face when his sister gets taken away. So, any comment on that? No?
Guns are bad. That's basically what I have to say.
Okay, fair enough. Andrew?
No, honestly, I think the remake is, because it follows the book. I think the first book follows Yang more than anything. So you sort of got a reversal of the original show, where it followed a lot more Reinhardt in the first 26.
Yes.
So this one follows the Alliance a lot more, and you do get Reinhardt's backstory, which I think may not be in the book, but is well placed, just because it gives you enough on the character and why he's doing what he's doing. He realizes that the world is unfair, and then if he wants to succeed, he has to take control.
Yeah, well, while the original has that whole kind of I think it's like a full 10 minutes devoted to Reinhardt realizing this, while it just doesn't do that in the remake. That would be my one kind of minor complaint about what the remake does. But if it's more faithful, then I think it was missing in the original in that case, because I think the original handled it pretty well. Kind of ridiculous that Reinhardt wasn't arrested by the nobility when he just busts into a party with a gun.
Well, in the original, when he does that, it's kind of ridiculous and stupid.
It's kind of over the top.
I like how they got rid of that in the remake.
I thought they could have done it, but done it differently, not just cut it out completely. But anyways, original shows Kirkais taking over the rebel faction of the Empire, and shows the kind of A2 Caesar killing with Phazon involved. The remake just skips over all that and simply shows Kirkais returning successfully. I will admit that the original, having literally the Caesar moment, is again over the top. I think the remake could have just shown him as a regular noble rather than a depiction of Caesar.
I thought they did depict him as a regular noble in the remake.
Well, it was placed way later, and they combined 2 events into one. Is what they did.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the. Well, I have it written down later, actually, so when I get there. Jessica Edwards got a full backstory with Yang in the remake, while the original just skips over that from the post-battle ceremony. I'm very indecisive on if that needed to be there or not, but it's fine, I guess.
I think it's because you get a backstory for Reinhardt and why he is where he is. And I think they did the same thing with Yang in his store episode in the remake as well, right?
Yeah.
It's just that for him, his come to realization moment is when he meets Jessica, and that's a catalyst really for a lot of his ideals. I think honestly, a lot of what his whole idea is to start with is to make a better world for Jessica, as much as he may not realize that's what he's doing. And for his friend, and then when she dies, he has already been doing it so long that he realizes he just wants to make a world where no one else has to die, kind of quote unquote.
Fair enough. New follower over on Mixer, Motion Blitz. Thank you, sir. Episode 6 is where both shows line up with the capture of Iserlohn, and it's like almost to the minute the same. Like I was taking screenshots back, like because I had it like side by side, because I had watched the remake just so recently that it was still very fresh in my head. So I just kind of had it off to the side of the same screen, and then I would kind of look over to see what's happening. And the Iserlohn moment was so key to each other. It was quite funny. There was just minor differences in dialogue, you know, from just how things were going down, how to get to certain points was a bit different. So, for example, the original had a brief El Facil flashback via Green Hill telling Yang the story as they were like drinking tea, while the remake actually showed it completely in a previous episode. So that's where that like minute diverted from. So it's just, you know, little interesting tidbit there. And then the Klopstock incident is way different. So the original ousted from high society, noble attempts revenge kind of deal. Again, so it happened twice, while the remake just combined it into one, and that's where the episode was replaced with the A2 Caesar rebellion that was missing. So there you go.
So the Iserlohn capture, I'm okay with the remake version of it. I'm glad they got rid of how silly it is in the original. It's pretty silly. In case you guys don't remember, it's the one where they go in with axes, and the Rosenritten are like, basically five guys with axes take over an entire ship. An entire
it's very Mission Impossible kind of deal. Yeah.
It works a lot better, the plan, I think, in the remake. It makes a lot more sense. It's similar, but they do some slight different things, and it just feels like a more solid plan. At least the internal part of it. The external part is pretty much identical. You know, like trick them into going out because they're stupid and they argue with each other. But yeah, for the most part. So the remake, I know, like, so in terms of story, like you said, visually, I think, have any of the other two, you guys seen the remake at all?
No. I still, you know, I need to finish this one and then wait at least 2 years and then watch the remake.
Honestly, I think yes and no. I think a lot of the problems both of you had with the original are solved with the remake for the most part.
You could say that, absolutely.
I'm specifically the issues that you guys brought up in the episode. I don't remember if there's a narrator in the remake, but if it is, he isn't as jailing Tori and Hickey. A lot of the things you feel like you're missing are sort of brought up, at least on the Alliance side, in terms of what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
And also, sorry?
I'll finish this one and then wait 1 year and then watch the remake.
I guess actually that's probably not a bad idea given where the remake ends. It does end on a cliffhanger, so
I would say like where the remake ends at all.
But then again, that's a problem with I think that's just a problem with how anime is put on televisions these days.
Yeah.
And since this is a production IG passion project, I think more than it's backed by a bunch of advertisers, they can only get 13 episodes. Whereas with movies, they can make movies as many movies as they want for whenever they want, because you just put it out in theaters. So distribution is easier for that. But TV, I don't know if you guys know, but like anime shows on TV are pretty much decided usually anywhere from like 2 years in advance at the latest ish, like at the latest more or less. Like they know what light novels they probably already want to put in that time slot by the time it gets there, and like a lot of anime studios are pretty much know what shows they are pretty much making next.
Well, I mean, like anime studios, they start planning. Like the planning production of what's going to be adapted starts 4 years before they even start working on anything. This is just figuring out what to do. Yeah, then after like 2 years, that's when they start to. Then they've been in talks with TV staff, production, whatnot, and what's going to go on TV. So about 2 years before it goes on TV, they already know when it will be out and what time slot it will be out. And you have the occasional show that's just fucking decided that, like, nah, we can do this all in a year. That's fine.
Yeah, if we go with the PA Work CEO interviews, 4 years for original work. I think it's 4 to 6 years to original works, and 2 to 3 years if they have a original material to adapt. Yeah,
Traeger says 4 years, but you get different answers depending on who you talk to.
I don't believe in anything Trigger says.
I believe that's true for Trigger, but but for most other people, probably not.
Trigger is it's a madhouse. I believe they just do everything in 6 months, and they're like, we spent 4 years in this shit.
Trigger makes about a fourth of the shows they produce, and then they send the rest out to others to make. So
they do make in 6 months. Okay.
So long story short, the remake ends right at the climax of the battle of
Amritsar.
Amritsar. While the original that goes until episode about the 15-16 mark is when that all happens, because there's a few episodes they throw in between to show more, like, for example, it just shows the Empire and its internal struggles with the nobility, hinting towards what we see later, while the remake, as you said, Andrew, it's more closer to the books, which focuses on the Free Planet Alliance's issue. So fair play, fair enough. At the end of the day, that's all just kind of what you prefer, and the remake does get rid of a lot of the crazy, kind of goofy 80s stuff that occurs.
Yeah.
So if that really bothers you, then yes, the remake is definitely worth checking out. If you want a little bit of comedy elements, but maybe you'll get something out of it more like I did than the... So it's just, in that terms, it's just per taste.
Oh, and the boys are B-sheer because it's production IG.
Right.
And the space battles are fucking beautiful.
Yeah, they're very
the Galactic Kurokos.
Basically.
My main...
But I like the blocks in the screams.
I think my main complaint of the remake compared to the original is the lack of romanticizing the characters and the music it plays in the remake. It's just not existent, so it comes off as a much more serious show rather than this romantic type show that I got. I don't know, maybe it's just an emotion I just took away from the original.
No. You're right.
Okay.
No, like, unfortunately, it's to show the shift in styles, right? Like, if you look at just fiction from the past, right, it's more romanticized, and whereas now it's more clinical, and that's sort of the same with the anime, right? The original one is more romanticized versus this one, which is a lot more clinical, and like, boop, boop, boop. This is what's happening. This is what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't hate either one. I love both shows. I loved rewatching. Essentially, it felt like. And hey, I've rewatched the remake twice now, so that says something.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready to give it a score, and then we can get into some fan thoughts of a little thing I put out there. So, who wants to go first on the score? Tori.
Sure.
You've been quiet for a while.
Wow. Just ignored what I just said. All right. So, I mean, I haven't really given it a score yet. I don't tend to think of scores before I'm like at least halfway done.
Just season 1. Just treat it like it came out as 26 episodes.
No, I refuse. But like the idea that I have or like the score that I have in mind, or kind of where I think it sits right around now, is at around a 7, like I said earlier.
You did say that earlier.
Let's say that's about there, 7-ish.
Wow. Okay. Icky, how about yourself?
Yeah. I would give it, to what I watched, 8 out of 10. I think it's a good score. There are problems, but I think at the end of the day, after 110 episodes, those problems will be diluted, but more problems with the same style of those in the 26 episodes I've watched will appear as well. So I'm looking towards that as well. But yeah, it lost a little bit of steam at the end there, but that's fine because they go into the middle of the story where nothing really happens. It's more calm and development to the tension rises and you have the conclusion. So yeah, 8 out of 10. The beginning is very good and I'll keep watching it because I really enjoyed it.
Andrew.
So before people forget that I think that I forgot, so Porn Stash Kun is called Mettlinger. So yes, he's the guy who just stands out in every scene as a background character because he has this huge looking porn stash. It's awesome. I give this a 10 because I really enjoyed it. I think it's really well written. I think it's a fascinating concept. You don't see much of in anime, even to this day, in this kind of form. Like, and as far as space operas go, it's definitely one of the more interesting ones. And it doesn't always, you're getting so much information, but it never feels like you're being bogged down by it at any point. At least that's how I view it. So yeah, I give it a pretty much a 10.
And no surprise, I am in agreement with Andrew. We have a lot of like thinking on this show. I think this show, Legend of Galactic Heroes, is the pinnacle of space opera. I think it's as good at storytelling in long term and what it's doing. And I have watched the whole show. I think I'm the only one that has watched. But in the first 26, even, I think it's just so tight. I love all aspects of character building and who's important when and when you should care about it. I mean, what haven't I already said about it? I'm in agreement with Andrew. It's a 10 out of 10 type show. There's nothing like it. It stands out on its own. Nothing comes close. I guess the
JD, big words, big words.
It is
No,
big
man,
words.
Breathe.
He is right. There is no other 110 episode.
Even in that sense, it's not the same. Yeah. I think the closest comparison to another show I've seen that's space opera with grand storytelling and grand battles and character building is it came out in 2000. Andrew, what oh shit, what is that show called? Andrew, it's the one Mitsugi over on the AAA podcast always talks about.
Oh, yeah. I don't like that show that much.
I don't think it's as grand as even he says, but that's like as close a comparison.
Banner of the Stars and Crest of the Stars.
Crest of the Stars, yes. Crest of the Stars, thank you. I've seen that one, and that's in the same realm, I guess, but I still don't think that even comes close to Legend of the Galactic Heroes in just about every aspect, but it's also a product of the time difference as well. They wanted their little moe characters involved.
Yeah.
In weird conversations, but yeah. 10 out of 10 show for sure. I think that that goes to like an 8.25, I believe.
So, JD, you're telling me this show is a masterpiece?
Yes, I am.
Right.
I absolutely am.
This is the second 10, right?
Well, if you count Future Boy Conan.
Oh,
I
you
think
gave
it's the
it.
third
So
one.
it's the third.
Yeah,
One,
third
yeah.
time.
Anne of Green Gables, Future Boy Conan, and now
Damn it, JD, your 10s are sitting way too low. You need to be more critical.
Yeah, JD, you need to give everything an 8, just like I do.
I don't know, guys. I feel like I've watched a video recently where you guys gave some 10s to some stuff.
No, I didn't. Every score in that video, my scores are 8.
Nope, you gave Ava a 10, Hiki.
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
I didn't give an 8.
You didn't give it a date.
I think I
What?
gave Anne of Green Gables a 9.
You
That's
did.
the only one. Yeah.
Are you sure? I thought you gave Ava a 10 too.
You did not.
Oh, okay.
No one
Alright.
gave it a 10.
I don't give 1s or 10s in any show.
Well, that's
yeah,
ridiculous.
That's just your personal.
Yeah, I believe that no show is appalling and no show is a masterpiece.
I
Ooh.
completely disagree with you.
Hickey,
I've given
you
a
have
few
not
ones and I've given a few
seen
10s.
So
You
everything
cannot
seems
tell
to
me,
be
Hickey,
fine.
that you cannot tell me that Handshakers isn't the worst thing. It's not that's not a 1.
I gave it a
believe-
3. And
I hate
he
you.
Oh man, have you seen the show that came out recently called Darling in the Franxx?
No, I'm still holding on that.
Yeah, that's why you haven't seen appalling anime.
Oh, that's not even a one. This man doesn't even know what he's talking
can we
about.
end or before he gets too ugly?
So we got some fan thoughts here over what they thought Legend of Galactic Heroes is. Tori, why don't you read those?
Fan thoughts, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Crash, the one who has won for what we're going to review next time on our next podcast. He said, I've seen 12 episodes of the OG, and I really enjoy it thus far. Not much to say otherwise, since I've only broken the surface of the show, but the characters have backstories that make sense, that drive their motivation, and it's pretty believable for that regard. And another fans, Sammy Bolts, over on the Discord, says, I've seen 3 episodes. Whenever the main characters weren't on the screen, I got bored of the OG, and Sammy notoriously does not like politics, so that does not surprise me.
Well, there you go. That's a good example of if you don't like politics, then the show isn't for you.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter whether it's this, whether it's Gundam or whatnot. It's kind of, I mean, I don't like Gundam either, but it's kind of the same thing. Right? Like, whenever there's politics on screen, I've talked to him a few times, and whenever it's politics on screen, he's like, taps out. That's like, nah, I'm not interested.
Fair enough.
Let's see. Iceberg Lou says, I like it. It's very action-packed.
Yeah, you didn't say much more than that, so I think
debatable.
Yeah.
I debatable with the level of action, but yeah, I guess.
I guess he's referring to kind of the build to it all,
probably,
and then the payoff being it's the sense of being action packed, which I can agree with. I'm just trying to break down that little statement as much as I can.
Don't overanalyze, JD. Yeah. Let's see. Aaron Cat says, I think it was one of the best new anime for 2018.
He's talking about the remake, yeah.
Clearly. I disagree.
I hope so.
I am waiting for the next set of episodes on Funimation. I love the OP theme, Binary Star, and the ED theme, Wish by Eliza. I know none of those, so...
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I put out on Twitter, this is a test, kind of a test run. Got more responses than I thought. Closing out the cast, retweeted, liked community shoutouts just to get more involvement. Costa 5643769. He retweets lots of our stuff, or she. Just about everything we put out that's podcast related. Gets liked and retweeted by him. So AAA Mondi, there's a Reanimator Pod, Meowth 900, The Senpai, I like that one. Custom Anime, Style Union Com, the Viva La JD over at Smack It Down Podcast, good friend. Somebody named BCom33. I don't know, Andrew, do we know that guy?
He's some guy.
Some guy. Yeah, who cares about it? And Body Count Pod. Good shout outs. Thank you so much. You can get shout outs on the cast in the future by retweeting the pinned episode from the day before of any time we record. So hopefully we get more community shouts in the future. And if you want to join a community, we have partnered up with Retro Twitch. Retro gaming, retro podcast, or retro community in general. It's over on their Discord. It's easy to get into. They've been doing a lot of just nice advertisements for us, be it anime, retro gaming. You can get into it via Twitter at twitter.com/Gilo_UK, and that's GILO_UK. Very good community, very nice if you want to talk about a lot of older stuff, a lot of retro stuff in general, retro gaming. People post DVDs they've gotten or VHS tapes, talk about them. So it's a really fun community. I'm a part of it. I have a lot of good time there. It's nice. So do that, and that closes out the cast. Please, if you've enjoyed the episode, head on over to iTunes, Stitcher, and leave a nice review for us. That will also go to future contest entries, like a 2-year anniversary coming up in January, hint, hint. Yeah, strong hint. And our next
Strong hint.
episode, as we said at the top of the cast, is picked by our contest winner from November Crash, and we're reviewing Revolutionary Girl Utena, so that'll be fun. Definitely look forward to that in episode 40. This is our last episode of the calendar year 2018. It's been a blast, guys. Andrew, why don't you plug your own stuff right fast with everything you need to do? It's been great having you, by the way.
Thank you. It's been great being here and talking and all that kind of crazy fun stuff. So I'm Andrew. I'm from the Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast, where we talk about people's anime journeys and formative animes to their lives. I just recently had JD on, him talking about how anime basically helped him learn another language, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to hear the full story on that, that episode should be coming out not too long from now, hopefully before the end of the year. Let's see how my editing skills can go this weekend, this time. So you can find that on iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast. We're also, you can visit the website, roaajcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at roaajcast.
And there's an anime community you're in the process of making, and it's almost ready. Is it not?
It is almost ready. We should be launching soon. I don't know if I can say what it is on here yet, because
all right, fair enough.
we
I'd
haven't
give it a nice
figured
plug anyways.
that out, but look out for it. It'll be on all the social medias. So if you follow me, JD is probably going to retweet it at some point when we do launch. And then, or my personal Twitter account, Frigimon Fanatic, whichever. It'll be launched there, or any of the other people involved. You'll see it. You'll see like tons of tweets and Facebook posts and Instagram sexiness when that comes out. So, but it should be soon.
It's really cool. I got a nice what's the word?
Preview.
I got a nice sneak peek at what the beginning stages look like. You guys' avatar looks absolutely amazing. Lots of kudos to that. You guys did a lot of hard work on there. It's a really cool community you guys are building. I'm looking forward to just being that third party involved. You guys worked really hard. I wanna help you guys out as much as I can on my end and our end, just in general.
We look forward to it.
Yeah. So that's Red Leaf Retrocast, episode 39, anime edition, Legend of Galactic Heroes cast. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next year.
Bye.
Peace.
Hooray.
Okay. So stop recording?
Yes.
No, keep recording forever.
Messing my Wi-Fi. I think it's the heat. I think my modem is overheating. This is a problem. I should figure it out how to solve it.
No,
I'm glad I cut that beginning stuff out more than I did, because we did talk about Legend of Galactic Heroes a fuck ton.
It is a lot to talk about. You could literally do a podcast on the show.
We did.
Just the show.
Was, just the show. We were like 2 hours.
No. I mean, a podcast specifically for that show.
Oh yeah. That would be easy to do, actually.
And books and anime and all that stuff. With the way things are coming out, and if it does do well in theaters, we'll be getting definitely more of it animated. So, yeah, you can theoretically start a podcast now and have enough material for...
I mean, it's got big chances for making it in theaters. A lot of anime makes it in theaters. I mean, fuck's sakes, in Japan, they fucking love remake movies. They do so well.
They like compilation movies.
Yeah, compilation movies. It's like, what the fuck? Like, they funded second seasons and whatnot based on the success of fucking compilation movies. It's weird.
So we were a minute short of literally talking about Legend of Galactic Heroes for 2 straight hours.
Quickly, everyone.
Let's get back to it. Blah, 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 Legend of Galactic Heroes, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Actually, I want to take back. I want to give it a 6 instead. There you go. 1 minute.
I think that's more than a minute discussion you're starting there, buddy.
I'm dropping the score. Oh no, you're not.
Let's go back and have 30 minutes of discussion of the many types of mustache this show has.
Oh, it doesn't have as many as you would think.
I mean, there's a. I think there's 5 styles of mustache you can see.
I'm just saying that Mecklinger dude, best mustache.
Is he the one with the separated mustache in the middle?
No,
Like
no,
very...
no, I don't think so.
That's Ansbach or whoever that is.
Yeah, he's the black-haired guy with the bowl cut and the black mustache.
Yeah, he looked like the other noble without the mustache, right?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I know.
Meerkats has
I saw him in the background.
But the hair in the show is fucking great, by the way. I do want that.
I love the perm.
Dude,
I said that when the remake was coming out. I was like, the remake lacks perm.
No, dude, the general, the black general with the gray wavy hair. I was like, damn, holy shit! I want to be cool like this guy. When I get old, holy fuck, this guy looks awesome.
The one black guy in the show, if memory serves. At least
there's a lot. And the aliens, they are like. They have multi-ratio.
Well, we didn't even talk about how ridiculous some of the story things are. Like the fucking ice. They flew across the galaxy in an iceberg.
Hell yeah!
It's so stupid. Anyway, I gotta run. So I'll send you the link at some point today.
Okay.
Okay, so just finish. I'm gonna upload it to my drive, but since I'm running out of the house now,
it's fine. I won't get around to editing it until tomorrow anyways, but I do want it so I can get this episode out from Monday release.
Oh god, you're ridiculous. It's a 3-hour episode.
Yeah, well,
I didn't get a chance to...
JD doesn't do shit with his life.
I didn't get a chance to edit to mute all of my background audio, so just a good noise gate that should be good.
It's easy enough to get rid of with a couple.
But I did mute myself at points anyway, so most of it should be good.
Cool.
All right. Well, you guys have yourselves a good night or day, and I will talk to you all on the next time I'm on a podcast. Maybe.
Excellent.
We'll see.
You need Tori on yours now.
Yeah, pretty much. But I have to put some space between you two, because then otherwise I'll have to have a theme.
Music video, and they talked about that anime stuff. I didn't know what it was. Great story.
Oh